All right, awesome. So come on in, everybody. Today with me, I have the wonderful Doovid. And should I call you David or Doovid? I don't know. Like, I like to call people by their real names if it's possible, but if you want to go by, I'll call you either one. It's up to you, buddy.
Yeah, Doovid, I guess, is better.
All right, perfect.
I tried to use my real identity, but I had a lot of trolling and, who knows, like my parents and my friends and family, um, you might prefer I don't use your real name, although I'm doxable. I'm pretty easily doxable. My name's been said multiple times. But yeah, generally, I just go by Doovid. Doovid is the Yiddish version of David. Some Doovid and David are basically the same. If you know what, like Muslims, like Dawid, David. And actually the David means friend from the Hebrew originally, like King David, but the root of the word David comes from like Dode, which could be friend or beloved.
Beloved Doovid, the beloved. Doovid the beloved. That could be like your new name. Doovid the beloved.
Well, it's actually just the direct translation of the Hebrew meaning of the word.
Awesome. So where were you born?
I was born in North Carolina, actually Raleigh, North Carolina. My brother was actually born in Texas because my parents moved around quite a bit the first few years. You know, they were boomers. They got married well in college and had 3 kids before they graduated. And by the time I was like 5, my parents settled in Metro Detroit, and we've been here since. So like I'm basically Metro Detroiter. However, me and my brother and sister were born all over the U.S.
So what are you firstborn? Are you like the oldest, youngest, middle child? What are you?
Youngest.
You're the youngest. Wow. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 41.
41. Wow. So when did you so when you were brought up, were you brought up in Orthodox? Well, no, you said you weren't like Orthodox. So what do you consider like you're just a biblical scholar that practices Judaism, or when did it even start for you with all this?
Well, my father's not Jewish. My parents met at University of Illinois and got married. My mother was like a secular Reform Jew, although my grandfather's grandfather was somewhat of a famous rabbi. He even participated in the famous 1893 World Parliaments of Religions at the Chicago World's Fair. I always had a interest in Judaism, maybe as like a youngest son or whatever. I'm not sure what first sparked my interest. But I was the only person who got bar mitzvahed in my family, and I requested it. I wanted to take the path of Judaism. My mother and her, parents seemed to be happy of that choice till I started becoming Orthodox. My father was also very supportive of me looking into my Jewish roots. He came from like a Presbyterian Protestant background, but it never went to church. His father never took him to church. And then when I turned 18, I went to Israel, and I got caught up in like ultra Orthodox Judaism. And, I studied in well-known Orthodox yeshivas. So like, I wouldn't classify myself as Orthodox or Hasidic, but Hasidic would be the closest classification. But generally, Judaism is kind of like lineage based. So your classification depends on the lineage of your ancestors. So, I would say I defy classification, but I could give you a pretty clear Orthodox Jewish perspective, and or non-denominational secular Jewish perspective.
So, are there things that ultra Orthodox Jews do that you don't like?
Oh, well, there's things everyone does that I don't like. It's saying like, there's certain nuances of the sectarianism, and generally because I'm the product of intermarriage, and intermarriage is forbidden according to Orthodoxy. That leaves me difficult to call myself Orthodox. But
so how are you? Would you be considered accepted within the Jewish community if you don't follow certain things? Are you still considered like Jewish? I guess I don't know. I'm just trying to understand like the rules of Judaism here and what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and how either one's reconciled, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, these answers are complicated because there's sectarianism, and different sects don't all have the same answers. I mean, but generally, if you're born Jewish, you're Jewish whether you practice or not. But to be part of a community, you're also required to keep their standards of religious observance. So you could look at it from a believer's perspective. Like, let's take the perspective that the religion is true and that there's some sort of obligation from God to follow the divine law. Or you could look at it from just a community standards, where these are the aspects of the divine law that the community widely keeps. And if you meet those standards, you're part of the community. And then there's levels and layers of being part of the community. So, I mean, it's relatively complicated. If you want to go through it, I mean, it's not that complicated. Maybe over like 5-10 minutes, we could, really understand the sectarianism in the main, breaks or communities within the Jewish community.
So this is where I get kind of confused. So who is determining whether or not you are following the Jewish traditions and the Jewish laws correctly?
We have rabbinic councils, but I mean, basically, there is no standard right now to make a determination. So in Israel, you actually have, it's an ethno-state with an official rabbinate that is in charge of the religion, and it's highly controversial. In Europe, before Napoleon and the emancipation of Jews and civil marriage and things like that, generally the Jewish community was under the auspices of their rabbis, and the rabbis were generally ultra-Orthodox. And so here in America, you have freedom of religion. You have even a capitalistic competition between religions. So you could classify yourself however you want, and it's all voluntary. So so here in America, you'd have to understand it with the voluntary compliance and the voluntary social structures that people choose to affiliate themselves within. And then at the same time, there's what if the religion's true? What if it's actually God's law? And who has the authority? Are there people in the generation or rabbis that kind of have the authority to determine who's properly following a Jew? What's the boundary that if you go beyond, you're no longer part of?
So do you think that Israel should be an ethno-state?
Not really. I mean, I've had discussions on this many times, and my opinions on Israeli politics are somewhat irrelevant because obviously I'm not even an Israeli citizen, and there's millions of Jews in Israel that would vote on these things. But my inclination would actually be to have a secular democracy, but at the same time you have to tie in with like the prophecy of the religion. And if you got like Aaron Amihud or something that comes on here, I'm not sure if does he come on your channel?
Yeah, he's been on once before on my channel anyway. I know who you're talking about though.
Yeah, I mean, so he'll tell you the prophecies and say, well, actually, I think there's going to be return to the house of David, and we're actually going to have a monarchy, and the house of David will be reestablished. And we're going to rebuild the temple and reestablish the Kohanim and the ancient caste system that's spelt out in the Bible. So I have to be somewhat conflicted in it. So as a believer who believes in the prophecy, part of me thinks like, yeah, I mean, eventually the monarchy of David will be reestablished, and we're going to rebuild our temple and start offering sacrifices. But from a political perspective, I think we should just have equal citizenship. Jews and Palestinians and all people should live secularly under one state. Although I would have provisions like Israel should keep in my mind the Hebrew calendar. Just like here in America, we're largely set up on a Christian calendar. You get Christmas and Easter and the different holidays off. That if you were in Israel, that it would function according to the Hebrew calendar, and you have to make certain types of provisions for maybe the Hebrew language. And I mean, we could talk about that. It's kind of, Israeli politics are kind of complicated if you, but if you keep on having these conversations, you could eventually know quite a bit about it.
Hmm. So, with Israel, but so this is where I get kind of confused because Israel, like being Jewish, is also part of the religion. So I'm kind of confused how you can have both views kind of simultaneously, being Jewish but also being, pro-Palestinian, living in Israel. So that's where I get kind of confused.
Well, because you can't really live your life in the secular world based on your belief in biblical prophecy. So I'm saying, I mean, even as a Christian, you might have these dilemmas where it's like, well, if you call it the second coming, let's say, but if you're a Jew, the first coming, you're supposed to believe that Messiah could come any day, and when Messiah comes, the whole world's going to be flipped over, and who knows what's going to be. The small are going to be big, and the big are going to be small, or whatever it's going to look like when Messiah comes. And as believers, we should hope that that actually happens today. But at the same time, you have to live your life according to righteousness and justice as you understand it to the best of your ability. And so these things are basically a eternal struggle till the redemption of the world, where you say, okay, eventually the kingdom of God will be the kingdom here on earth. However, the laws in operation when the kingdom of God is here on earth is going to be different than the laws that we're under now in kind of like the fallen state. And so we try the best of our ability to operate according to the laws of God, even though we're in this current fallen state. I'm not sure if you have a similar outlook on life.
What do you mean fallen state? Like just for the country, or like you talking more of like a spiritual, like from a spiritual aspect?
Yeah, I mean, you talk with like the Jehovah's Witness, you say. So if you look at
Yeah.
like you're a patriotic American, your husband served in the military, but at the same time you're a Christian, you believe in the second coming, you believe in the redemption of the world, that Jesus could come back today, and the world could be redeemed. And very likely, if that happened, like, are you going to be a proud American? If the redemption of the whole world happens today, what is going to you'll be the state, and it's unlikely going to be the current state that you function in with the fallen state of humanity as it is.
Right. No, actually, I do kind of agree with that. So it's like, as a Christian, I believe that there is no state that can really usher in God. It's like the kingdom of God is within each and every one of us as individuals. So it's like it doesn't really matter if Jesus, when he comes back, it's not going to be the United States versus China. It's not going to be anything. It's nothing like that. Like nations aren't really going to have a meaning per se. I mean, it's like we all come together, sure. Like in Revelations when it talks about the 12 tribes coming together, but it's still the kingdom within us. So that's what I believe as a Christian. That's how we get there. Like that's the next level. So in that aspect, yeah, I wouldn't. It doesn't matter really what you are, I guess you could say. Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, I usually say the expression, it's hard to be a righteous person in an unrighteous world. So, I mean, certainly the dilemma of, like we talked about with Joseph about, like John the Baptist, are you going to renounce all your possessions? Are you going to just live on faith in the forest because you believe the redemption is going to come today? Or, you're saying like, no, you have your responsibilities. You have to function in society. You have your family to take care of. You have to like enroll your kids in school and make sure you have a profession and bread to eat for tomorrow, and so on and so on. That you end up creating a dual identity where you say like, yes, I am a believer. I do essentially believe in the prophecies and that these things are the real truth of what's happening, but I function in this fallen world that operates according to sin.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? Because I'm noticing also that you can honestly live almost two lives. Like you can live a spiritual life and you can also live in the material world life. What do you think about that? Do you think that's kind of possible?
Yeah, but I was saying, let's say the question is, what do you think your chances are of getting into heaven? And you're saying when you look at from pure biblical godly standard, are you falling short of your obligation before God? And saying, okay, so you don't think God is going to hold you to the standard of like John the Baptist or whoever your biblical heroes are, that like that you weren't required to take it to that extreme, but in your heart you might recognize that yes, it would be better had I done that. And then you got to look like, how much does God actually require from you? What is the bare necessity to get into heaven? Or if you think you're passing that threshold, how much of yourself are you going to give to God? How much are you going to give to yourself, to your nation, to whatever? Like biblically, you kind of have like the 10% for God, 90% for me. Like the tithe type example, where you live yourself, your typical like American Jew, Christian, Muslim, any of these traditions, where you're basically like, I'm 10% for God and 90% for myself. But then you could look at the saints and you say, oh, the saints were basically 100% for God and 0% for themselves.
Well, that's so I don't know. Let me know what you think about this. So Christian theology would say it's the only way you get to heaven is basically you confess your sins, you repent, you accept Christ as your savior. It's by faith alone. And that's why Abraham, was so favored in the eyes of God. It wasn't because he's just following rules, and he did listen to everything God said, but it was his faith alone that got him, won him favors in the eyes of God. So as a Christian, you look at that and you say, well, that's all it is. And Christ repeats it, quite often. It's faith. It's all faith alone. It's your internal, your internal confession, and that's your salvation. But you would say that that's more of a spiritual aspect, right? But what you would say is it really matters in the material world what you do, because that favors, like that gives you favors in the eyes of God, right?
Well, I mean, you gotta look at it and say, well, you're on the right path, but you're on the path to salvation, but have you guaranteed salvation? Is it possible that you just started on the path, but at the end of the day, you're going to get veered back into the path of sin, or you're going to fall short on the path and not make it past the threshold of what it takes to, so to say, be included in the kingdom of God.
But that's the thing. But sin it's unavoidable, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't avoid it, because at the end of the day, like what your famous saying, the Jew's gonna Jew, but you also have to think of it like this, like a human is gonna human. And I think one of the biggest ways moving forward, as I've heard you say before, you're pro brotherhood of man. So I take that and I say, all right, if I'm very and I kind of have the same outlook as you do, like I want everybody to kind of be, I wouldn't say equal, but kind of equal, like recognizing that we're all human. And part of the human condition and the human makeup is sinning. It's unavoidable, and like no matter what you do, at the end of the day, you're going to sin. So is there one sin that's worse than any other? If you break it down like that, you could say, okay, you could cheat on your spouse. Yes, that's very, very bad, right? Everybody could agree with that. But is also mixing two different types of fabric together on the same playing field as, say, cheating on your spouse or coveting your neighbor's goods, whatever it is. So that's where, I don't know, you kind of have to just understand that we're just human, man. Like we're going to sin. That's it. And no matter what you do, it's just unavoidable. So how do you get, like, okay, how do you go about your day? Like I want to know your routine as a Jew, like what you do to win favor from God. You personally.
Well, I mean, so it goes back to the question of Judaism and Orthodoxy. Because I am a Jew, I feel I have to obey the law. I have to do the ritual. I have to, wear the tassels and cover my head, and have to fill in and obey the Sabbath and all these different things that you may not be required in order to make it into heaven. And so the Orthodoxy, I had on my channel review of some of the rabbinic literature, but in Ethics of the Father, it says beware of a minor prohibition just like a major prohibition, because you don't know how these things are weighed in heaven. So like you gotta be careful with that. And it could be like you mentioned kalayim, the in the Mosaic law, there's these forbidden mixtures of, for example, linen and wool. So it's saying like, okay, you have garments that have linen and wool on them, God forbid, you may not make it into heaven. It could be that when you get up to heaven, you say that actually the mixture of linen and wool was a extremely serious violation, even though we may not have understand. Who cares? Just a mixture of linen and wool, so to say. But so you have to try your best to observe all of the law. The scripture gives certain roadmaps and directions about what weighs more than others. That there's in Hebrew, Talmudic law, there's a concept where a positive commandment could outweigh a negative one, or certain times one commandment could outweigh the other. And in life, that usually happens, constantly, where you can't do everything, and you have to weigh the circumstances about which one are you going to give more emphasis to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Jesus in general had that path of love your neighbor as yourself, loving God, and these type things that could overrule like Sabbath. The people who were needed to be healed on Sabbath, and were the Pharisees wrong according to their own laws? Saying like, well, let the person die. According to my understanding of Sabbath, unless the person is literally going to die that second, you can't violate the Sabbath. And so you're going to make an argument like, no, I mean, the purpose of the law is to live by the law and to prosper by the law. And you have to have this greater understanding of, how you're going to live and prosper by the law, but still do your best to obey the law according to every aspect.
So don't you find that a bit stressful? Like, you're constantly walking on eggshells, like, like you have to be very careful, correct? That's what I'm saying. Like, how do you manage life to not sin? Like, that's why I think I asked you last week or whenever it was, like, have you ever lusted after a woman? And you admitted that you had, and I say, like, who cares? Like, fine, everybody lusts. It's totally fine. I don't think you should feel bad for doing it, honestly. So it's like, how do you go about your daily life without being super stressed? Or, I mean, I don't know, maybe you're accustomed to living a certain way, but do you ever get that? Do you ever feel stressed in your life?
Yeah, constantly. I'm saying, so you embrace and thrive on the stress, and you say that yes, every second matters. Then any second you could choose the path of sin or the path of righteousness. And even if you sleep for a second, the inclination of the body of the material world is to drive you into sin. So you can't even I had a local rabbi who was actually Bukharian, and from Afghanistan in origin. And it says in the Talmud, because the Hebrew wisdom kind of looks at it like you have an inclination towards good and an inclination towards bad, and they're both functioning at every moment. And the inclination towards bad in Hebrew, called the Yetzer Hara, the Talmud says, very clearly, it never takes a rest, it never takes a vacation. Every time you defeat it, it just comes back stronger. So like, there is no rest in this material world. There is no time like, I just want to chill out and take it easy. That's not the path of someone who wants to serve God, because it's a 24/7 battle.
I yeah, I guess it is for sure, right? Like, we try not to sin, but it's still, I don't know, it's just hard to do. And that's where I had to take solace in that, you know, ultimately I'm a sinner. Like, that's I don't know, I just had to kind of accept it, and then you move on from that. Yeah, you can try not to, but at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know, how doesn't that kind of shut you off from life though? Like, I think that in a way, we're, in order to even know what repentance is, or how not to sin, you have to know what sin is. So you basically, you die in your sins, and that's what the whole purpose of Christ was, to die in our sins and only to be reborn, like a new person. And I don't know, what do you think about that?
Well, it's saying, can you be assured about your path to heaven? I mean, is it possible that despite you being you're born again and trying to do the right thing, that in essence, like we're going to hell, and or the deep theology, and the love of God and fear of God. So certainly many strands of Christianity, but Judaism emphasizes love of God, but it's like an equal balance between the love of God and fear of God. And without the fear of God, uh, we will sin. Love of God is
Mhm.
not enough to prevent a person from sinning. You need fear of God. You need to understand that you can't necessarily mess up and get away with it. That's why I say constantly, you can't sin and get away with it. You can say, okay, I'm trying my best. Sin is natural. We all sin. But when you look in the mirror and you look through your daily life, generally, like the Hebrew sages say, you should try to repent at least every day before you go to sleep. And if that's too
Mhm.
difficult, like once a week or something, just a period, preferably before you go to sleep, where you look, okay, I made a lot of mistakes today. The ancient prayers, like the Catholics had, the "Now you lay me down before you sleep," and you pray, God, my soul to you. Saying that you might die. God forbid we might not wake up tomorrow, and what would be the state of our soul if we didn't wake up tomorrow? Would we be going to heaven or hell? And that reckoning of what are we accomplishing with our life? Are we sinning, or are we on the path of righteousness? And you say, okay, I think I'm a pretty good person generally. Like I'm, basically in line with the law to the best of my ability. When you look around society and you think, well, what is everyone else doing? I think, comparatively, I'm doing pretty good. But from the absolute standard of God's law, we all know that we're falling short.
Yeah, no, I agree. And as even as a Christian, like I ask for forgiveness every night. Like, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, And but I also know I'm going to continue to sin. Sometimes it's like you don't even realize you're sinning because the human condition kind of takes over. And like, I don't, that's where I'm trying to work this out now. um I've been reading Genesis, like chapters 1 through 4, and there's so much human psychology within those 4 chapters. And it's like, we're ultimately like kind of cursed to be what we are. So now it's like trying to navigate through the human condition and trying to live righteously, which is, it's difficult. It is difficult for sure. And I'm sure you could probably attest to that. Do you find it like, well, I guess you said it is kind of stressful. Do you find it super difficult to live a righteous life?
Of course.
Yeah. So what are the main things for yourself that you ultimately like try to avoid, saying like, okay, no, I definitely don't want to do that. Like what is that for you?
Well, I thank God, like I came on to God when I was young. I already, went to Israel when I was 18 and accepted, ultra Orthodox Judaism. So at this point, I had wrestling with drug use or different things, depression, but generally, I've kept myself distant from sin my whole adult life. So I work on things like not wasting time. That so that's a big thing to me is you're just looking, am I using my time productively? So thank God I'm not, like, okay, obviously we have the sins of the flesh. The flesh naturally, there's lust and there's anger and there's greed and there's
Mm-hmm.
envy and all these different things. And even the most righteous person, at least according to the Hebrew sages, will never be free of these desires because it's natural of the flesh. However, in terms of action, um, I've been extremely distant from these things basically my whole adult life because I went to Israel and became, born again, by the time I was 18 years old. So I might be struggling with higher, um, things like I want to have God on my mind 24/7. I want to use my time productively as possible. I want to analyze my relations and interactions with other humans and society. And, like, okay, did I get too angry? Did I, turn a blind eye to suffering of others and all these different things? So I think, generally, if you've been born again, you might have there's a few different ways of being born again, but if you've been born again and you could say that, generally you put a fence around severe sin where the major sins, you just say like, I don't steal. You could say, okay, well, what's stealing? Did you download things from the internet that really is a minor form of stealing, or so and so stealing someone's time, possibly make someone wait. That could be or traffic. I'm an aggressive driver, cut someone off. Different things that I know I'm doing wrong, but on a larger level, saying like, no, it's impossible. I would not commit adultery. I would not be a violent person, picking on the weak, or even to angry, embarrassing someone in public. And I've even made a fence around my life, recognizing the weakness of the flesh, to put myself, protect myself from even being in situations where I'd be likely to sin. As Joseph was saying, like going to the bar or something like that, saying like, okay, I'm not even going to go to the bar. I'm not even going to go to that party where sin is likely.
Well, if you're not married, then there goes your chance for committing adultery, right, Doovid? So I've heard you say before, like, your time is valuable to you. But I do appreciate you coming on here and doing this with me, by the way. So what do you use your time to ultimately try to please God? Is that what you mean by your time? Like, do you spend your time trying to please God, basically?
Well, yeah, definitely. But I said, like, certainly 10 years ago, I largely, not without a vow, I basically renounced entertainment. So it's saying like, I don't even try to take relaxed periods, but like, I'll watch like TV or listen to music. So I mean, generally, like, I don't even listen to music. I don't watch TV. All of my time is spent doing productive things. So it's a question of what type of productive thing am I doing? So like in Israel, you might have like, oh, well, the only thing productive is studying God's books, studying the Talmud, studying Torah. But I like studying all types of things: history, engineering, science, different religions. So I've made a decision in that where, just, okay, is it sinful to, study so much about engineering, science, or Hinduism, different religions? So, but at least I'm not wasting my time, so to say, listening to music or watching TV or just basically entertainment. Think that, like, what at the end of the day did you gain from it besides to entertain yourself? And obviously, wasting time is basically impossible to not waste time. Laziness, breaking laziness. I had strict training in Israel, the type thing where, like, I'm not going to wait for someone else to do it. If there's something to do, I'll just do it myself, and to break the laziness. And there's a lot of concepts about what it means to waste time, and at any different level, you could see yourself as like, yeah, probably the majority of the time during the day, everybody wastes. But if you spent 6 hours, just mind numbing before the TV, watching pointless stuff, that might be different than, Doovid spending 6 hours like studying Hinduism.
That might, I don't know, studying Hinduism might be just as worthless as watching TV, to be honest. I'm just kidding. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like, if you want to listen to music, Doovid, I think, like, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Like, how you choose to spend your time is solely on you. And like you said, who is defining what is productive and what's not? Like, I still think I still think you have to live a little bit. And I think you can do that without sinning, per se. And if you do sin, just, ask for forgiveness, and all is forgiven. You live on. You're still a human. Like, so, but you don't have a girlfriend, and you're not married.
Yeah, I don't really.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I was married. I wish I was able to build up a family, but I haven't been able to find the right woman.
Why not? Are you too picky?
I don't think I'm too picky, but I think I'm pretty eccentric in the type lifestyle I want to live. It's extremely difficult to find another woman that would want to share and live the same lifestyle that I'm interested in.
Absolutely. I will definitely do that.
I have the dilemma because I'm somewhat like an Orthodox Jew, but I'm not really an Orthodox Jew. So it leaves me, like, I couldn't even really marry another. I'd have to find like another born again Jew that would be interested in living that lifestyle. And here I am in Metro Detroit, where there's not too many born again Jews, and a lot of the born again Jewish women might prefer to just mold into the current Orthodox society that exists in this area, which is not exactly what I'm trying to do. So I've been pretty unsuccessful in that, and I've also seen, because I lived in conservative societies, that the flirting, even intermixing between men and women is largely sinful, because in Jerusalem and Brooklyn, you have basic gender segregation, and even communication between the sexes would be discouraged unless it's for a purpose. And the Western society as it is, you have this very, kind of like flirting, and I'm forgetting the right vocabulary words to describe it, but it's like, to me, it's kind of just a precursor of sinful behavior and the degradation of our society that I choose largely to not participate in.
Well, Doooovid, do you mind if I just say something to you a little bit, like from a woman perspective? Do you mind if I say, girls, if you like, especially if for a single woman, if you really want a woman, Doooovid, then you got to flirt a little bit, like how are you ever going to get any type of initiation into a conversation with the opposite sex? Like you got to kind of give off the vibe a little bit. And I wouldn't consider that sinning. I mean, how are we going to live like a bunch of robots? Like, hi, I'm woman, I'm man. We just get married and that's it. Like, you have to, kind of initiate yourself a little bit, right?
Well, yeah, but it's saying if you recognize that sinful behavior is sinful behavior and you want no part in it, that so in a typical, like, say, okay, you're going to note like a person's appearance, whether they appear attractive or not, is saying largely sinful. You say, okay, that you have no interest in forbidden relationships. So historically, you had arranged marriages, and so in Orthodox culture, you still have largely arranged marriages, but yeah, I'm not really applicable to that because my family's not Orthodox. It'd be so that leaves me kind of on the outs to be arranged, and yeah, it's a difficult situation. Like I have been looking for a marriage partner, basically my whole adult life, but and I have lots of women friends, I'm relatively egalitarian. I deal with women all over the place. My mother was a corporate attorney. I don't mind working together with women in the business place or social settings, but just try to avoid the typical, what I would call sinful behavior that happens in most social settings.
Well, that's where I would say maybe it's not really something wrong with the human condition. I'd say maybe there's something wrong with the laws, because there's only so many laws and rules you can have to the point you're just like, what the fuck, man? Like, I can't deal with this anymore. It's like, what am I? I'm not Christ. Like, I can't follow this stuff perfectly. So then you just live your whole life following the rules, and at the end, what have you really, really accomplished? Like, and I guess that's a serious question. So, you continue on this journey of Judaism. At the end of your life, what is it that you have accomplished? If you never get married, and you never have children and get to experience like one of the most amazing things ever that a human being can experience, and that's being a parent, and being married at that, So that's where I'm wondering, like, are these laws just so much to the point where you can't live a fulfilling life? It's like what's fulfilling? Fulfilling the law, but not having children. Like, I would take having children any day over any type of Jewish law.
I gave you a screen share. This is a Facebook friend of mine from Houston, Texas. He would probably even meet with you and talk with you in person. I'm not sure where he lives in Texas. Chaim Nisim Cohn. And you could see them. He has 9 sons. I'm not sure if he has daughters also, or if he only has sons, but he has 9 sons. He lives in Houston. And in that, like, yeah, I'm jealous. I'd like to be like, I'm jealous of this man. I would like to have like me and my 9 sons like that, all following the tradition, and happy to be Jewish, living in that. I'm not sure if you're on Facebook or care enough you'd want to reach out to him, or he might be busy.
I don't have Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably has contact information. Otherwise, And I don't know if you even pay to reach out to him, what would it matter? But yeah, I'd like that to be me. Like I'd like that, to be my picture with my 9 sons, and but that's not my case right now, and I try to use my time productively, and it could be that I'm not, I hope to merit to build up a family and find the right woman to do that, and that just hasn't been the circumstance. But I don't think marrying the wrong woman or engaging in sinful culture is going to put myself anywhere closer to that position.
But what is sinful culture though? I mean, we could probably have a lot of agreements on what we believe is sinful culture. Like, I don't know if you know who Cardi B is, like just straight thought
just her name. But I
rap
mean, thank
trash.
God I've
Yeah.
never even listened to one of her songs.
Yeah, same here, man.
I just know the name because it's in the news or people talk about her.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but I don't know, dude. Like, I would love for you to have a family. Like, I want everybody to have a family. Like, I think it's just such a blessing, literally just a blessing from God to even be able to have children and then to raise them is such a blessing. And I would love for you to have that. I honestly would. Like, I sincerely mean that. And I just don't know how you would go about doing it. I guess living, I guess, the lifestyle you would, just because I think you seem to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like you're so fearful of breaking the law that you can't, like, it would kind of stop you from having a normal human life, you know?
I don't think so. I mean, I just need the right woman. You say, I know myself. I'm just an eccentric person, and I'm also a half breed. I have an interesting blood mixture and lifestyle choices that I might like think I keep my eyes out. Like like I know hundreds of women in my area. Like, I mean, even that I'm friends with you on Facebook. I'm friends with even hundreds of women in my area, but like I need the right match, something that that I would be able to build up a family for, and I've been willing to so to say stay celibate in order to wait and find the right woman. Yeah, it becomes fearful. Yeah, I'm already middle aged, and you start my beard's turning white, and so the fear comes, and you're just like, okay, just go out to wherever to meet women and take what you could get and get married. And there's some sort of perspective maybe, and I don't even think it's like that I'm necessarily picky. I just need the right woman for me. And saying
So, but now wouldn't you
if the
say
right
you're kind
woman
of
for me was
you're
unattractive or something like that, I'm like, I might be willing, so to say, to settle with that, where I'm not waiting for like the 10. I'm just waiting for the right woman for me. And so I don't think it's like that. Like I would probably be willing to marry an unattractive woman, or if she was the right woman for me. It's just that I'm largely eccentric, and I've made lifestyle choices that I'm pretty set on, that it makes it very difficult to find the right woman for me.
Wouldn't you say though you're kind of also putting like that's really raising the standards, you know? It's almost like you're kind of putting rules for yourself and what women to accept, you know? Like it's like
I want to accept. I'm not you're saying, but I mean, if you look at marriage, the purpose is to build up a family. And it's like, okay, you have 2 daughters already, and maybe you didn't plot out how you want to raise your daughters, what you planned for your family before you got married. You just kind of fell in love and got married, and now you have children. But I have more, like a vision of how I want to raise my children. And so in that sense, I get married and start having children. And then, me and my wife have severe disagreements about how we're going to raise them. And, so even though I know, I know a lot of women, I know a lot of accomplished and, um, attractive or intelligent women, even women that are dedicated to Judaism or different things. But I've never seen someone that I thought would be a match for me. And, so I'm kind of relying on God, maybe say, to create a miracle, that I believe that a match for me exists somewhere. And, hopefully sometime soon I'll find that. But it hasn't happened yet. And I don't think it's, due to any of my social circumstances. In fact, like, I mean, I think relatively, I know quite a few women, and, even just on Facebook, like I'm friends with hundreds of women, a lot of them, very nice women, but they're just not the right match for me to build up a family with.
maybe lower your standards a little bit, Doovid.
But it didn't say it's the standards. saying it's not because the woman is. I'm not saying they're the wrong woman for me because they don't have these qualities. I'm just saying that the woman that would bear my children. Yeah, I don't think it's a standards type thing. It's saying that the woman that's a match for me, and like I didn't put like I'm not saying that I need a 10 or something. I'm not even saying I need a 5. I could be like JF Garepi or something like that. Well, I could see myself like that, where it's like, no, I don't think I have explicitly high standards. I don't think that's my problem.
Yeah, that's really funny. Well, I don't know. I have hope for you, Doovid, that you do find the right woman.
Well, I appreciate your prayers. I'm saying you
Yeah.
reached out to talk with me, and like you say, you're praying for me, and like I appreciate that. That could be a benefit or a help. So thank you.
Yeah, of
But
course.
I don't want to harp on this subject a long time. You're saying like, yes, I'd like Doovid is in the marriage market. Like there's a lot of information about me on social media, and I could take a monetary path and maybe be a good supporting father, but like I really kind of have like a mission. Like I want to raise children in a certain path, and it's very difficult for me to find a woman in that sense where you say, okay, you could find a good husband who's going to take nice care of you and be nice and be able to provide and support you, but it's not the same thing as you kind of understanding that like I have a philosophy and way I want to raise the family that makes that more complicated.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well,
I don't know if your husband so to say has that much of a saying he's just like patriotic American, he's Christian, but beyond that he doesn't have such like a philosophy in how he wants to raise his children.
Now maybe I think both of us are more on the page of raising them like Christian. So we're and I'm still learning for sure, but I'm trying to figure out how to even. I mean, this is where we can even shift topic a little bit about how to even raise kids in this society. I know you also mentioned like internet streaming culture, so I mean, this could be a good little segue into that. So how I don't know. What do you think about culture nowadays? Because this is a challenge I'm trying to figure out in my head about how to raise children in this current culture and like this political climate that we're in. So, what do you have? Any words on that? Like the streaming culture or just culture in general?
Yeah, I mean, streaming culture is probably parallel to larger culture, and I'm a very purpose-driven person, and like we talked about wasting time. And so the question, like in these conversations, what is the purpose of the conversation? And if it's just kind of like to chill and talk and relax, I'm not like a chill, relax kind of person. So like I usually want to have a purpose, and I enjoy interfaith. Like I've been doing interfaith for a long time. I came to my multicultural, like I went to Israel, I became a born again Jew, but I also kind of became anti-Zionist. I didn't like the direction that the Jewish state was taking. And so, by the time I was 20, I basically came on to my Doovidism of like multiculturalism, universal humanism, and tried to live that standard where I treat all people the same, look at all people with equal value, regardless of their race, religion, whatever upbringing, and so whatever your philosophy. So if you're younger, maybe you haven't done as much research. You didn't, like I studied in seminary for almost 5 years in religious seminary and read the Talmud and all these philosophical books, and I'm constantly educating myself. If you don't have a well thought out worldview or philosophy, you could be streaming in order to research and talk through these topics. As where in my hand, like I'm still researching. Obviously, it's a lifetime of research, but generally, I've already came to conclusions on these issues, and so I'm more like purpose driven. Like, why am I having these conversations? What do I expect to get out of it? And it's unclear to me that that just like in society, I think the majority of people are not so well thought out or not so necessarily purpose driven.
So, damn, I don't know. Like, I kind of agree. I do agree a little bit. Like, a little bit there. It's like, what is our purpose? Well, as a Christian, I would say our purpose is, try to live a righteous, good life, and do what you can. And our goal ultimately is the afterlife. I mean, the material world only lasts for so long, and you do as good as you can, and then you look forward to kind of the afterlife. But it's like the path to even get there is so slippery, especially because we're living in the clown world. I don't know. Or what do you think about that meme, actually? What do you think about clown world?
I mean, to me, like, I'm thinking of eternal truth. So there's an expression in the current memes and social structures that are recognizing eternal truths. I was going to say, kind of like as advice to you, you're younger, maybe you haven't fully thought out your philosophical outlook on life, that I quote Isaac Newton often, one of my favorite quotes: the definition of intelligence is to hold multiple conflicting ideas in your head at the same time. And like, I've been doing that for years. That's part of interfaithing, or having all these internet blood sports conversations and debates. But you yourself, you have to first become extremely grounded in who you are, the way you want to live your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could understand that there's other ways to live your life, that people see things differently from you, and start understanding, okay, this is my perspective, this is their perspective, this is where the points of agreement and disagreement are. Here are the things that you could work with each other on. Here are the things that if you tried to work with each other on, it would probably lead to conflict and might be better not to work with each other on, and so on and so on. So it's, as you said, like, you're a born again Christian, you just got baptized, but you haven't even necessarily went through the whole Bible once thoroughly to have a good understanding of the Bible, let alone, like a denominational system where you could understand, like, okay, you're this type of Christian, and on these important theological sectarian issues, this is your opinion on, or this is, this is how you're going to follow, this is how you're going to go, even though that there's other approaches to it. So, really, you have to get kind of grounded in yourself, where you're comfortable with yourself, you're comfortable with the path you're taking, you're comfortable with your philosophical outlook towards the world, that you could have conversations with other people who have divergent systems. And then, it could be like, my trolls, so to say, if it's Echo, or maybe even Brundle, or a lot of these people I converse with, and saying that our systems of how we look at the world are in fact so divergent that it's impossible to have productive conversations.
I would almost even say that it's almost impossible to even be grounded in something, because it is it's so mixed up. And I would disagree with you on multiculturalism, mostly because, like, I grew up in a very, very white area in, like, the middle of nowhere in Virginia. And I mean, altogether in my whole entire high school, I had like 10 Black kids, one Asian kid, there was one Indian family, and that was it. And it wasn't until I actually lived in California for a total of like almost 8 years that I understood what multiculturalism is, and kind of how it affects the area. And I agree with you that we should, as especially as individuals, we should be based in something. That's just my personal opinion. And like, as a born again Christian, of course, my base is becoming Christianity. But I've noticed with multicultural society, especially with people from different religious or from different religions in general, it's almost hard it's hard to build a society when not everybody can agree what the base is, So that's where I would say, like, multiculturalism is, it's impossible, to be honest. I mean, if people were coming here and they were Christians, it would probably be a little bit easier. Just because, like, at least that foundation in faith is set, but then you have to worry about other cultural aspects. And like I said, living in California, which is, especially the Bay Area, which is extremely diverse, I was able to actually witness and live in, a place where nobody can like get along really. Like people self-segregate themselves. Like you'll have a Vietnamese area start to form because that's where they all, they just flock to this one area. Same with Chinatown or, Japantown, or you have like the Hispanic, like the Mexican side of town, you'll have the Honduras side of town. And it's almost can't work because, it becomes, well, we believe this and well, we don't believe that. Therefore we don't like you. So that's where I would disagree with you there, but I agree with you that we should have like a base foundation to live our life by. But I also agree it's good to know other foundations of other people because you get to understand yours better.
Yeah, we'll see how informed are your beliefs, and saying, I informed my beliefs over going to Israel, living in New York, Manhattan, New York City over 10 years, and, university graduate. I think I've been at least driven through all 48 mainland states in the U.S. I was in France, England, Amsterdam, and, like, multiculturalism works, saying it may not work for everybody. I'm not saying that you need to force multiculturalism upon everybody, but clearly multiculturalism does work. There are problems with it. There's a lot of benefits to it. And I've chosen to be a multiculturalist. That's what I was saying, like, okay, that's the choice that I made, and I've continued to live that way, and I continue to preach the glories of multiculturalism. But no, I'm not trying to force that upon everybody. And I'm not saying there aren't issues and problems that come along together with it. And you might inform your beliefs better, as you get older, as you travel more. Maybe if you went to university or dealt in the business world, where you would see that, despite the problems that you've witnessed and have heard about and studied about multiculturalism, that there are factually many benefits towards it. And then, if you want to respond to that, then maybe I'll press you on the Christian aspect that, are you going to be able to have successfully a non-multicultural Christian attitude towards life, being that Christianity is a universal global religion?
No, I still disagree because here's the way I see it. If I want to, like, I wouldn't go to Japan per se and say, you guys are doing it wrong. You need to be more like Americans. If I go to Japan and especially if I choose to live there, I'm going to have to accept their culture. I'm going to have to accept their whole way of living and accept their laws. And me going there, I have to recognize that. So it's not like I'm not going to go to Japan and wave my American flag around and say, no, you people are doing it wrong. It's like, why the hell would I even leave my country? Multiculturalism, it creates this, I don't know, like how multicultural is the area you're living now? Like what are the main two races where you are?
Blacks and Jews. where I live right now. I mean, it's not super multicultural, although there are all types of people. But Metro Detroit, there's all types of people. And I lived in Manhattan, New York City for over 10 years, where it was substantially more multicultural. Where but even here in Metro Detroit, there's close to 100,000 Arabs and Indians and different types of Asians, and they're all over. But where I'm right now is over 50% African American, and then after African American, probably Jews are the second largest group.
So what happened to all the white people?
They moved. I'm say, the neighborhood I'm in right now.
But that's the thing. Why?
When my parents first bought the house here. Well, I mean, if you want to talk about that, we can. But factually, when my parents first moved here, the neighborhood I was in was probably over 90% white, and by the time I was in even grade school, even before middle school, it was over 50%. It was majority minority by the time I was in middle school, maybe even by third grade. This area was majority minority. So my whole life, vague memories when I was a tiny kid about being like mostly white. to majority my whole life. I've lived in majority minority areas.
Well, then, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like in California, and just from my experience living there, like the white people were just leaving. Like when I was a bartender, I used to have customers come in all the time, and they would talk about like they just went out of California. Like they're sick of it. Everybody's just sick of it. So it's like people are literally fleeing, and it's not just white people. It's other more the non-liberal, or what today's liberal is, the non-liberal people are just, they want out. Like they don't like this multiculturalism. They don't like what's being pushed. They don't like the laws of, like, say, California. And so they're leaving. So you have to ask yourself, well, if multiculturalism is so good, then why are so many people leaving? It's like because it's not working. Like that's the reason we left. Like I was sick of it. I was sick of not knowing my neighbors because they either don't speak the common language, they don't have the like the same beliefs or cultures or traditions. Like I can't go in California. I could not go to my next door neighbor's house and just talk to them about, what it's like growing up in America, like with my culture and music and traditions. Like I couldn't do that with any of my neighbors, nobody, because there was like nobody that was American. There was like Chinese, there were some Arabs across the street, there were Mexicans next door. It's like I have nothing in common with these people. It's like why do I want to go out and mingle with them? It's like it's kind of pointless, and I think it like just divides society, to be honest. And even as a Christian, I say that, and I don't believe that. Well, I think Christians have a lot of issues as well. Like I think that's what the whole point of planting churches in other countries is, just so like they don't have to come here. Like you don't have to mix nations and cultures in order to, I don't know, like further society. Because at that point, if you just start to mix them, then nobody has an identity anymore, Like, and I want people to have their own identity. Like I want the Jews to be able to be Jewish, and I want the Chinese to be Chinese, and I want Americans to be American, So mixing all the cultures together, you can't get that.
Well, you can. I'm saying you may not have successfully been able to do it, but yes, you can. And your point where you do have a lot in common with those people. You might have more in common. You might not have so many communication, cultural barriers with your fellow white or type people that you feel naturally inclined to, or people that have more common DNA with you. But yeah, of course, you share countless things in common with everybody anywhere on the earth. Even if you didn't even share the same language, you would share countless things in common with them. You could get along with them. You might choose not to, but no, I mean it's
yeah,
Chinese,
okay. I mean,
Indian,
we can.
or Hispanic neighbor. Like yes, you could get along with them. Yes, you could find commonalities with them. Yes,
Like,
you could be friends with them. It might be difficult. It might require a little bit more work than it is to be friends with like your common, whatever your genetic heritage is. Although the payoff might be more, that there might be a larger payoff for acclimating yourself to the multicultural world.
I suppose that's the other thing, though, Doovid. Like, I didn't ask for a multicultural world. Like I didn't ask for this. This isn't something I wanted. I don't want China to come to me. Like I would much rather go to China and visit China there. Like I don't want China here because this is my country. Like, like I don't know how I can call myself an American without fighting for what it means to be an American.
We have to look back to your greater identity. So, when we talked at the beginning, like the law, like I think I would be able to, like Doovid is good at following rules because I try to obey God's law and the Mosaic law and the halakha, which means the way, the Jewish law. And there's so many rules that I'm pretty good at following rules. I think if I went to India or China or Japan, I would be able to figure out what their rules are and fall in line with their rule system. I might prefer different countries or different ways of life and more freedom, but and when you put the question in the beginning, like you want to fall in line with God's law, you realize that the current structure of life is largely sinful and that you could live according to the kingdom of God, even though you're in the kingdom of here and now. And I think that applies to what you're saying, where eventually, whenever the kingdom of God is not going to be the kingdom of man, and the kingdom of man is more likely to fall into these not necessarily arbitrary, but lesser divisions like race and nationality and ways of life and nation. And when you argue with your Jehovah's Witness who say the American flag is an idol, like your country. I mean, I don't know if do you have these arguments with your local witnesses? Saying the Pledge of Allegiance, flying an American flag, that's an idol.
Yeah. Okay, the flag is an object, but what it represents to me is something more. Like this is
when idol, you're saying, because that's the point, it's just an object. But
no, I don't worship it.
More to you, that's actually a barrier towards your entering the kingdom of heaven, because you have a barrier in front of you to enter the kingdom of heaven, and you're purposely grasping strong that barrier, and you can't obtain admission into the kingdom of heaven because you have all these idols that you want to take with you.
I wouldn't say that. No, I wouldn't say that. Otherwise, how else would I identify? As a Christian? If I don't identify as American,
identify by God's law. And you're saying okay, whether people are like you and they disobey God's law, you would rather affiliate with people not like you who obey God's law. And you could differentiate. You could look around and say, okay, these people are basically me. And then you look, well, how do they behave? How do they act? How in line are they with God's law? Just like how you say you found your husband. Your husband represented the values that you wanted for your family. So even though he's not you, he's a foreigner, he's an Asian or whatever, that he represented the values that you cared about more so than so the white men that were maybe available to you. And this thing that values trump genetics. Values are more important.
Yeah. I would actually, I think I would probably agree with that to an extent. But it's still, there is still somewhat of a difference somewhere in there. Trying to think of how to explain this. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I have to think more on that. But
we have to look how important is God in your life. And when you look, we were talking about, in essence, you believe in the second coming, you believe in Messiah, you believe that could happen any day. And you want to be in line that when, the second coming happens and God gathers up all the righteous people, you're going to be from them. And, saying, what do you think? Are you going to be included among the righteous? Or are you going to be included? Are you going to be from the people that don't want to drop your idols and, are going to be stuck in the lower reality because you were unwilling to leave your idols?
I don't know. I would say that for one, I live by God's grace and God's mercy. I don't live by God's laws per se. I mean, you can say, okay, Ashley, you should try to follow the 10 Commandments, and I wouldn't disagree with that, but I wouldn't say I live by God's laws. I don't know.
There are aspects of charity, like helping your own first. I mean, the laws you're saying of, I'm not saying there are benefits to multiculturalism. And as you become more educated and, even more enlightened, more actualized, I think multiculturalism will be easier towards you. And, saying it, I don't know, you ever have spiritual experiences, you come out of church or the singing's really nice, or, you're just listening to a really good sermon and you feel enlightened. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, sure.
And do you feel at those enlightenment times, do you feel more multicultural, that you wouldn't care who you were dealing with? You would see the souls, you've entered the spirit realm and you're more connecting with the soul than the body. And at that point, multiculturalism is more natural. I mean, I would actually agree with that.
I would actually agree with that. That ultimately, like for me, it's never really been about skin color for me. It never really has been. But so yeah, I would actually agree with you on the spiritual aspect. You know, like we're like just the flesh is just that is what it is. Like, and ultimately to me, the spirit is what really matters. But at the same time, I also live in the material world, and I don't know. I just don't. I can't see multiculturalism working in that aspect. Especially, I mean, if everybody, like I said, if everybody that was coming in here was Christian, it would be a lot easier, I think, me personally, to accept it. I guess because at least that foundation is the same as mine. But then you start breaking into like the cultural differences, and it's so big, man. Like for instance, my mother-in-law, her English is horrendous. The woman's been here for like 37 years, and her English is like I can't, I have a hard time understanding. Like constantly my husband has to translate, and it's like she didn't adapt. She so therefore I can't even have a conversation with her. Like, how am I supposed to connect with this woman when the language isn't even there and she's been here for 37 years, you know? And like, and trust me, I would love to connect with her. And she's also a Buddhist. Like, I would love to get her on the like on the Christian page, you know? But I don't know how that's going to happen. And I don't know how you can do it on a large scale. It's like, what, open the borders, let everybody come in, and then hope for the best. Like, I just don't think that's attainable.
Well, you talk like policy, how society at large should conduct itself. When you're just saying, how should you conduct yourself, and what's the path towards enlightenment for you? And I put it on a like an esoteric level where when you're less connected to your soul, you only have your body to be connected to. So if you're not connected to your soul, you're connected to your body. I mean, you obviously, even if you're connected to your soul, you're still connected to your body. But if you're not connected to the soul, the body is in essence the only thing you're connected to, and that leads towards a more us and them mentality, because you're saying, who am I? You look in the mirror and you say, well, you're you because your genetics, because your parental background, your lineage, and but as you become more enlightened and more spiritual, you connect to your soul. You say, yes, I have a body, yes, I have a lineage, but the main thing that defines me is the spirit, is the soul. And then you see that in other people. The main thing that defines other people, even if they don't realize it, even if you're dealing with an atheist and they think that they're being defined by their body, but you say, no, in fact, the same thing that defines me and my spirit and soul is what defines all people. And then from that enlightened perspective, I think multiculturalism in dealing with people becomes easier, and you might even be able to pick up some words of Vietnamese, or just maybe it's the accent type thing, and you just learn a little linguistics, and say, oh, when they say like a T or certain vowels, they come out differently, and then all of a sudden it clicks, like that you could understand your mother-in-law because you just didn't appreciate her accent, and you just say, no, when she says these letters, it sounds like those letters, and once you pick that up, you could basically completely understand her.
I don't know. Like I kind of refuse to speak Vietnamese just because like I feel like that's not my identity. Like I mean, I shouldn't identify with, I guess, any language. That's not
It's your
my.
kid's identity now, and saying you do it for your kid's sake, because okay, that's not your identity, but it is the identity of your daughters.
Yeah, well, and trust me, I even told my husband this a couple years ago, like after we had our first kid, and she's 5, she'll be 6 in August. And I told him a couple years ago, like, you should teach her Vietnamese, because his first language was Vietnamese, and he speaks it fluently. And he refused, like he didn't want to do it. He's like, why am I going to teach them Vietnamese? Like, we live in America, and they're not gonna go to Vietnam. And I mostly said it just so my kids can communicate with their grandparents.
But do they understand? I mean, is it only you because of your upbringing or whatever? Your daughters understand your grandmother fine, or they have the same
No,
problem?
like they have no idea what the hell she's saying. And she even told me one time, she's like, "Oh, Ashley, like you should learn Vietnamese." And I told her, I was like, "No, you need to learn English." Like, if I don't, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you go to a country, and like I said, if I go to Japan, I'm not going to be going there raising my American flag and forcing everybody to speak English. Like that's not that it can't be the way it works, Like so she can't just come in here and say you need to learn Vietnamese. Like no, lady, you're this is my home, my land. You need to learn my language,
Well, I think that, well, I mean, if you make your priorities in life, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be patriotic, you should be patriotic, you should love your country, you should be a good American, you should be a proud American, but what's your real identity? So if you go to Japan, is your real, it's just like the question of like the Jewish nepotism or dual identity, and some of the Jewish scholars, saying I'm a Jewish American, I have a dual identity, and maybe saying even in essence my Jewish identity is more important to me than my American identity. But as a Christian, does that make sense? Saying are you a Christian American? And you're saying, but however that you're a Christian American, your American identity is more important to you than your Christian identity.
No, not necessarily. I like because like that's the thing. Like I identify as a Christian, but is that
if
it?
you were in Vietnam, would your main thing be, if you were in a non-Christian society like Vietnam, and maybe has more Christians than Japan, but if you were in Japan, would your essential identity be like America and American culture, or would your essential identity be Christian?
And I think it would kind of be both. I mean, you can ask yourself the same question. Like, you're half Jewish, so do you consider and it's also your religion. So, I mean, but I guess that's the weird thing, isn't it? Like, because your religion and your identity go hand in hand, and that's okay. I think that's totally fine. So why can't I have the same thing?
I mean, you couldn't. I mean, sure, that's why I'm recommending. I'm saying my spiritual identity, even though I'm a half Jew, even though I'm an American, my essential identity is a Jew. And that doesn't mean like I know a lot of things about American culture. I'm very, I serve my father. I love my father. I love my country. But my essential identity, when I connect to God, I connect to God as a Jew. And if you say the same thing when you repent before you go to sleep at night, or you pray, you don't pray to God as like an American white Christian. You pray to God as a Christian.
And, as an individual. As
an individual Christian who has these attributes, like, okay, you're American, you're from Virginia or whatever your European genetic background, but the essential identity when you connect to God is as a Christian. And then you could see you have to become grounded in who your identity is, and where these things where these different factors value and affect your life. So if America goes to sin, you're just like, okay, as an American Jew, if America turns against the Jews, am I going to turn against America, so to say? And what about that as a Christian? You're saying if America turns to sin, if America turns against Christianity, what's your essential identity? Are you still going to be wielding the flag, or are you going to be wielding Jesus?
Why can't I do both though? Because I can say, yes, I'm a Christian American.
Well, I think I could do both, but people like you might stop me and be like, "No, Doovid, you can't be an American Jew." Like you're because I'm a multiculturalist. I believe, like, to me, Doovid is America. Your husband is America. Your mother-in-law is America. I don't think saying your mother-in-law, even though she hardly speaks English, to me that's not the essential value of being American. And I don't mind your mother-in-law. She could be someone who hardly speaks English and is a Buddhist, and that's fine. To me, she could still be a good American, and the essential values of America, she might still fit in fine with. But when it comes to a push shove factor, where you're just like, no, Doovid, you can't be American and have your ideas, because that's not what America stands for. But then at the same time, you see there's the other factor where it's you who's being un-Americanized. You're not the good American, because America is a multicultural place. America, if it's global homo or all these different things, where you can be, okay, you're like, I don't really care about America anymore. America has betrayed my values, and I'm going to take my values over my nation.
I don't know, David. I still I still disagree. Well, because you're in a situation to where you're Jewish, like being Jewish is also part of your identity, So it's
but I'm American. Are you neglecting my American identity? So if I went to Japan, I would be an American too. I would be a bearer of America. I traveled the world. I was in multiple places in Europe. I was an American, even though I was a Jew, and that was my identity. I'm an American Jew. I'm bearing those identities. But if we met each other in Japan, and your Americanism versus my Americanism, he's like, no, Doooovid doesn't represent America. He's a Jew, and you're saying like, no, we both represent America.
Well, I think it depends on what you mean by represent America. Are you well, that I don't know. So that would be the question then, is what you have to choose. Like, you either choose your Jewish identity, and I guess what Judaism is, and from what my understanding of what Judaism is, it's like very pro-Israel. Maybe you're different. If I am, then please correct me. But being Jewish is also, you have a certain mindset you kind of you follow, so it's like it ultimately, the question is, where do your loyalties lie? It's like you either pick your Jewish identity or you pick like your American identity.
No, I say my first loyalty, it's saying like God, family, community, and community will expand to country. Say my first loyalty is to God and God only. If there was a conflict between God and, God forbid, my family, I would choose God. If there was a conflict between God and my country, I would choose God. I'm not against America. I like America. But if there was a conflict between the two, I would unquestionably, without hesitation, go with God. And then we say, but my community, I do have like the country, my community, my neighbors. That is part of my identity. Like I bear my community, I bear my country, I bear my neighbors everywhere I go, but that's a lesser value to me than God and my family. And I don't think you essentially disagree. To me, if you had to put it like, was your husband a Marine?
Army.
I don't know if it's the Marines or it's like God Corps country or something. I think they have it that way. Even in the Marines, where you're fighting on behalf of the country, it's I didn't Google it, but I'm pretty sure it's God Corps country.
So what happens if God sends the Messiah? Are you going to believe it? Like, I guess that's the thing. Like, how do you know what God's saying to you? Like if you have to choose between,
even in the Marine, where you're fighting on behalf of the country, bearing the flag, you're given, God forbid, the right to kill on behalf of the country. The Marine motto is for God, Corps, country, meaning that the first thing you serve is God, then your local group in command. So if you're in battle, you have a larger loyalty to your actual comrades in battle than to the country, and the country's third. So even that's the official U.S. Marine position, God, Corps, country. That's what President Trump says when he's like, we don't worship the country, we worship God.
No, I would agree with that.
And you say, what does it mean to be America? That's how America defines itself. Saying like you disagree, you're claiming what it means to be America. America itself doesn't even claim that.
Yeah, America got hijacked.
Doesn't say that. No, that America wasn't hijacked. The Marine statement, God, Corps, country, that's I'm pretty sure that goes back before 65 or something. That's the fundamental understanding of freedom here in America, that you're saying that you're allowed to value God before your country. You're expected to.
Yeah, but I guess but
that doesn't just go for Christians. That goes for if your husband was a Christian, and it's saying, I don't know if the Army has a similar motto like the Marines, but if you were a Buddhist Marine or a Jewish Marine, or if you could be an atheist Marine, I don't know, it would still be the same God Corps country. It's not Christian God Corps country, it's God Corps country, and you could be a Jewish Marine and still say God Corps country.
Yeah, but then it's like, what God? What God are we talking about here? So as a Christian, I'm not going to say God. I'm going to say Jesus. That's what I'm going to say. Like that's who I'm ultimately trying to follow, is his teachings. So you can say God, but that's kind of vague. Like, what God are you talking about? Is it your God? Because I don't believe that you and I have the same God.
Well, of course, I mean, you should. I mean, that's why you learn how to interfaith and learn to say, even though there's, I mean, so America was basically built by Freemasons with Christian leaning. So, I mean, the Freemasonic understanding, the grand architect of the universe, in monotheism, that is the foundation for America. And so, I mean, if you're going to, I mean, I don't know how much you know about American history, but I'm saying America was built upon the separation of church and state, largely by white Christian men, but they were also largely Freemasons and had this monotheistic understanding of this, one single great creator that unifies everything. However, different paths and different ways of serving this one creator.
Well, I would kind of agree. I would say they're like more deist for sure, like our founding fathers. And yeah, Masonic, which is very Jewish, to be honest.
But I mean, it's
But
not Jew. I mean, obviously Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and Benjamin Franklin weren't Jews. They were Jew friendly. All of them respected and studied the Jewish religion and had Jewish friends, but none. They weren't. They clearly weren't Jews. I don't think that. I mean, I forget if there was a Jew who signed the Declaration of Independence. I don't think, as far as I know, I don't think there are any Jews who signed the Declaration of Independence.
I don't know. I'd just say they were definitely deist. I don't know. Hold on. Somebody, I don't know who this person is.
There were Jews. There were Jews who signed the Declaration of Independence.
Well, I guess that explains a lot. Wait, who was it? Who were the Jews that signed it?
Well, actually, oh no, maybe there weren't. I'm looking it up, but I mean, there were definitely Jewish influence and involved, and I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, we have to do some research, but no, I'm saying clearly, America wasn't made by Jews. It was made by made by largely Christian Freemasons and their understanding about when they created this country. And if it comes down to that, and you say like, well, you reject America because it doesn't represent the values you appreciate, or you start to have a greater understanding of America where you really appreciate those values, where you could say God core country, you could say God family country, and be a proud American who represents your God first, then your family second, and your country third. But you have to recognize that Doooovid and your Buddhists and Hindus are allowed to say the same thing, even though they believe in a different God than you.
Yeah, but won't that like just contribute to the destruction of my country? Just because we're not going to agree ultimately. Like Judaism and Christianity, they're not the same at all. In fact, they're like complete opposites. I believe that America was supposed to be a Christian nation.
But it wasn't. I mean, saying it wasn't. I'm saying that I mean, you're clearly just incorrect. It was made in a different manner. That's not what the people who founded the country believed. I mean, it was largely.
The Puritans, like the English Puritans that came over here, like the 13 original colonies, they were looking for escape. Like they were the original Christians on the land.
You could argue about their views on immigration and multiculturalism, or even white or European stock, but clearly it was designed to say the separation between church and state, and freedom of religion, and Jews from the beginning were included in that. That all of the founding fathers knew Jews, wanted Jews in the country, were friendly to Jews. There's open documentary literature and letters about the founding fathers and their positive relation to Jews and allowing Jews to worship their God within the same country. I mean, even like Islam and the Native Americans. I mean, so obviously Jews had the most favorable non-Christian stance in America of any of the religions, but that's the America that and even your pastor, you might have like Melchizedek and a supersessionist, or but I mean he's a Seventh-day Adventist or whatever. That's not a mainstream American position. That wasn't the position of the Christian Europeans who founded the country.
Well, I'd say that's what Christians got wrong, because I actually do believe in supersessionism.
But you're saying you're happy to be a dissident American then. So you're saying you disagree with America, you disagree with the stock that made America, and what you're going to turn against America because you had a conversation with Melchizedek.
No, not at all. Actually, quite the opposite. I think America has been kind of brainwashed, and nobody knows the truth anymore because of the subversion. Honestly, and I'm not saying this because I talk to anybody. This is coming from reading the Bible myself, and it's just like, whoa, this is like everything I've been told about Christianity has kind of been a lie, And even talking to my pastor about this, like he didn't even know what supersessionism was, and there was some point in history where the Jews got Christians to stop converting, like trying to preach conversion therapy to them. And, oh, I'm sorry. And I think we need to take it back up again, Doovid.
Did you see, just to, because I know the Brundle, Luke Fordian type people who might be watching. I'm not sure what type of people you're watching, but, just now, Rabbi Goldstein and President Trump.
Ay vey. God forbid. Yeah, Trump he's owned. He is owned by Israel. Great.
He's not owned by Israel. I'm saying that was you're saying that would have been George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin also.
Doesn't mean they're right.
Well, I mean, so you're looking at your values, and you just say, I mean, you might want your side to win, but who is your side? Do you really appreciate what is your side? And you're saying, okay, you're not a proud American, then you're an anti-American.
No, that's that. I'm like, I wouldn't define American as being friendly to Jews. Like that's not our only definition. Like I say this
part of the definition. I'm not saying that's your value. Like, okay. But it's saying like, no, I mean, you can't be an anti-Semitic American. You can because you have free will, you have freedom of opinion and speech in these association, but that's not an American value. It wasn't an American value when the country was founded. It wasn't an American value, basically ever, and it's not an American value today. But you do have the freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of association. Those things you still do have.
Yeah, for now, but they're trying to take it away piece by piece.
But saying it's not them, it's you who's trying to take it away. You're the one who's breaking away from the American tradition and trying to take that away from people. It's not other people.
No, I don't think so, because now the American tradition needs to be explained a little bit better, and we're reaching a point now where we can't even describe what American tradition is because nobody can agree with it. And that's also part of the problem. Like I can say I'm American because, all right, I was born and raised in the mountains of Virginia. I grew up listening to bluegrass. We had campfires out in the fields next to the rivers. Like that's my heritage. That's my culture. Those are my traditions. And also grew up in a more Christian home, like on my dad's side anyways. And so like I can say, okay, this is what America is. We have freedom. Like I'd go out in the backyard with my 22 and just start shooting things. Like that's, to me, I mean, there's so many things I can say this is what represents me as an American. But as far as, just, oh, let everybody in, like, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go there.
Yeah, I was saying because the essential value is freedom. Where you're saying that you value freedom, the essential principle that America offers you is freedom. And you don't want to extend that freedom to other people. You're saying you don't want to extend that freedom to, the Buddhists and the Hindus and the Chinese or whoever.
No, I do. I don't want it here. Like, I wish every country in the world could be free as America. I mean, but is America even free anymore at this point?
So if you're in Houston, you're already a pretty multicultural place.
Yeah, it sucks. Like, I don't like it.
But you're not from Houston. You came to Houston of your own
to get away from California. Yeah, but I had no idea how multicultural Houston was until I got here. I'm just like, what the hell? Like, I thought I left this. Like, I was trying to leave this, and now here we are. I mean, our lease is up at the end of July, so I mean, I don't know. I like some of the people here that I've met, part of the church. My neighborhood's really nice, but ultimately I don't want to be here. Like, this isn't where I want to be. I want to go back home to where my roots are, like that's where I want to be.
So why don't you do that? What's preventing you? You want the
Well,
benefits of
just
multicultural. I mean, you said you came from a small town. I'm saying, why don't you go
yeah,
back to a small town?
we're
So
working on it. We're working on it.
you want the benefits that multiculturalism has to offer, but you're
Well, you
not
can't
willing
tell
to.
me what I want, because that's not what I want. I want my culture, and I want to be around people that are like me, that share the same. Like, you can't hear it now, but I used to have a really thick country accent, and I miss that. I mean, it's just little things like that. That's part of my identity and part of my culture. You know.
Why'd you move to the big city then?
See, I left home at 18 to join the Navy, and I haven't lived back home since I left, honestly. So I'm 29 now. So it's been about, 10, 11 years since I've lived home. I miss it, man. Like, and I kind of have to go financially what's smart for my family and I. So, I mean, like, we're working on it. We're definitely working on getting back there, but it's just, it just can't happen like that. Although I wish it could. It's the reality of my situation now.
And obviously, the
But
majority of the people, in the chat or who, watch you probably disagree with me. And that's, probably how you came on to me, is from hearing my arguments with them. But like, as you grow and become enlightened and more educated, you have an easier time dealing with the multicultural world. It doesn't mean you can't protect your culture. It doesn't mean you can't have both. I mean, look at if you accept universal humanism, that the essential nature of all people is largely the same. Obviously, there's differences. Human biodiversity, race realism is true, but the essential nature of all people is the same.
I wouldn't say
You
that.
could have both. I'm saying you could have your family, you could preserve your heritage and your farm or community wherever you came with, and you could also succeed in the large city. But what it takes to succeed in the farm or where you came from is not the same thing that it takes to succeed in the big city. And generally, being culturally intelligent, being able to deal with multiple different people is part of what it takes. Look at your husband. I'm saying your husband speaks a different language that he largely, almost never speaks. But your husband could be adapted. He might be able to go back to Vietnam, appreciate where he came from, and still function successfully as a multiculturalist in the big city. Saying that both are possible. Saying you don't have to. It's not a one or the other. You could successfully, so to say, have your foot in both doors, where you could be in the big city, be a multiculturalist, have all different type friends of all different type people, and then you could have your family in back in the largely homogenous area, preserve your traditions and ways. And you might even if you're successful, even be able to have both, where you have property in the city and property where you came from, and be excelling both, where you could be building up your homogenous area where you came from and also being successful in the multicultural big city.
But that's the thing. Like, I don't want to live in the city. I hate living in the city, to be honest. Like, I don't like the traffic. I don't like the sounds. I don't like the smells. I don't like the amount of people. Like, I live in a nice neighborhood, and there's like a pond literally like 10 feet from the back gate of my yard. And it's like, I'm just sick and tired of seeing people. And it's like, I don't want to have to accept, like, why should I accept other cultures in my American culture? That's what I'm saying. Like, I can't walk down the street and just be a normal, I guess, country bumpkin like I traditionally and really am, just because who am I going to relate to like that when I
Well,
have
you said
people
it
from
yourself.
Somalia and
We're saying it's not your American culture. Your American culture is where you came from, your area, where
mm-hmm.
your family, your friends, and saying where you're at now, the majority of America, that's not your America. The America that's your America is you're just one of many type people who have the exact same rights to be here and excel in society as you do.
Mm.
And you could disagree with that, but I mean, you're disagreeing with the fact. You're saying you might think that you're special, but when you're in the city, you're in America, like, no, you don't have anything on those other people that are non-Christian or non-white, and you have to be able to get along with them. And saying you could end up going back to the country area because you weren't successfully. I mean, how is your husband? How is the Somali person capable of acclimating to the multicultural world, but you're not?
But that's the thing. They don't, though, Doovid. They're not. Like, and just the other day, I took my kids to the playground that's a few houses down from where I live. And I go there and there's like I don't know where they're like, they're Somalians or Kenyans. I don't know. I believe they were speaking Swahili, but like there's nothing in common with these people though. Like they were not speaking English. They're only speaking, I'm guessing, Swahili. And it's like, they're not adapting. Like that's it. They're not adapting. You can say, well, I need to adapt to multiculturalism because I just need to accept it. Therefore, I should just adapt to it. It's like, but no, I never asked for this. I didn't ask for these foreigners that don't share a common heritage. And Texas is still South. Texas is as far west and south as you go. Like that's like kind of the last straw for America. And I was coming here coming here from California, expecting to be, have, I was expecting more Southern hospitality, put it that way. And you do get it when you meet actual like white Christian Americans, but you don't get that when you're meeting Somalis. It's totally different. And they're not accepting the culture because they still, like I went to eat lunch with my daughter the other day in school, and I don't know exactly where she was from, but I'm going to say like maybe from India or somewhere in the Middle East. But she was wearing like full on garbs from her country, which is it fine? Sure. But that's like, why should I adapt to multiculturalism when they aren't adapting to my culture? Like, so how is that? I don't know how you can justify that.
Multiculturalism doesn't mean adapting, mean that you preserve your culture, they preserve yours, and you all get along. And it's saying, like, I would assume, my experience is almost all people are hospitable. Muslims are very hospitable, Indians, all types of people. I'm sure if you went to a mosque, there would be Muslim people that would feed you, invite you in, and be nice to you and tell you about their culture. And just probably the Somalians or the Swahilis or whoever you're dealing with, yes, they would probably be nice to you and invite you in and feed you and tell you about their culture and their belief system. And you choose to participate that whatever level you want. It doesn't mean you can't preserve your own culture. You're just saying, but you're just hating for no reason.
No. I'm not saying
why
that.
are these people here? You can't get along with them.
No, I mean, okay, here's the thing. Like you can assimilate a few people, and I think you can, and I think that, for the most part that's okay. But you let in a whole lot more, then assimilation becomes more difficult, and you let in even more, then assimilation becomes almost impossible. And then you let in so many, and it's like, well, look, we brought our country with us. We have our own Kenyan or Somali community, and they won't assimilate. So it's like their culture and country is already here. Therefore, I need to accept that. I totally disagree.
Well,
like
what are your other choices?
Sure.
I mean, your other choice is to run and say you can't handle the city. You came from the country to the city and you got to flee because you can't handle it. Or, you just complain in an echo chamber on YouTube where you find the other people who agree with you. But I'm saying, what are you going to do about it?
So you think I should just accept that my country is being overrun and kind of just taken? Like, I shouldn't fight for it at all? At what point should I not fight for it, though, Doovid? Or actually, better question, what point should I actually fight for it?
Well, what do you want to run for Congress? Run for Congress.
I guess in this day and age, I could, huh?
Yeah,
but that's the thing.
Like, saying, what do you mean fight? But I don't think you're doing by like shitting on other people. You're not doing a favor to yourself or your country. You want to run for Congress. You want to change immigration policy, maybe, but just like being mean to people that are already here, that's not helping anyone.
No, I'm not mean to them. I'm not mean at all. And that's another, like a key word that I've been noticing in all of this is just tolerance. Like, why are there so many immigrants in America now? And it's just because tolerance of Americans have allowed this to happen. Like, I never asked for open borders. I didn't ask for, like back where I'm from in so I grew up in a county, but I had cities.
Which is
on
your
either
expression.
side,
You never asked for it. It seems kind of like selfish or naive. Like you never asked for it. Like, yeah, like you never asked for Google. You never asked for the automobile. Like we never asked for like things happen, things change. Like no one asked you your opinion on this matter. you're
Yeah,
born into the
exactly.
world as
Nobody
is.
asked me for my opinion on this. Nobody asked anybody for their opinion on this
Yeah, I'm
matter.
saying, so why
Instead,
would
they
you
just
even
opened.
why would you even mention it? It's like, of course no one ever asked you. Like, did you expect them to ask you?
Oh, I guess not. Good
I
point.
mean, I
But
mean,
isn't that
just the
part of
way
the
you expressed
problem?
it, it seems kind of like, yeah, of course no one asked you.
Well, it wouldn't. Isn't that part of the problem? Don't you think maybe somebody should have? Maybe somebody should have asked, like, "Hey, is it okay if we let a whole bunch of Somalis into
It's not the way the world
Nowhereville, West
works.
Virginia?"
I mean, there's policy, but I'm saying that's like a naivete or selfishness. I'm saying that's not the way the world works. No one asks you before they do things. I mean, if it's directly someone, society doesn't stop to ask people before it changes.
Yeah, well, I can blame what was it, the 1964, 1960 something Immigration Act. I can blame that. I can blame the people that were behind that. Is that fair?
I don't think anyone's to blame. I'm saying things change. Like, people don't ask. You could step up and say you're gonna try to change society, and so like the people who stepped up and changed society of the past, and you may not agree with what they did, and like had you been knowledgeable at the time, maybe you would have tried to stop them. But it's just kind of like a childish, naive way of looking at the world, saying like, you want to step up and change the world, good luck.
Wouldn't it be?
Like, yeah, but just to sit here and complain about things you have no power over.
Who says I don't have power over it? Oh, like, yeah, of course. I'm just like, it's just me. I'm a lone person. Like, I'm a female in Texas. It's like, okay, what am I going to do? True. Okay. But what's worse is you don't ask for your country to be overrun and the culture subverted, or you just sit there and take it. Or you don't fight for it. It's like, okay, here's what's happening in your country. Just accept it and move on. It's like, well, I don't like this. Okay, so I'm going to run. All right. And then what good is that going to do me? Well, I guess I get out of the city and get out of the multiculturalism, but it's not like ultimately it's not helping. And then how long until wherever I run to, the same thing starts happening? It's like, what am I going to do? Just keep on running? Like, if I don't want to accept this and if I don't like multiculturalism, like, what option do I have? Like, where can I go, Doovid? That's basically it. Like, where can I go? Like, I don't want to sit here and complain. Trust me, I hate complaining. I hate complaining about it. And this is like a big issue I've noticed with the right is, a lot, that's all we are kind of doing is just complaining. Like, and I want answers and I want some type of solution to basically save my country. And I say save my country because it's going to get to a point where if I don't save America, I'm not going to be able to practice my religion. You know what I'm saying? Like, because Christianity is like, they're going to start coming down hard on it. And I'm already seeing it happen now. But it's like, what am I supposed to do? Just run or just sit there and accept it and live a miserable life with people that I don't relate to?
You should act according to your values and educate yourself. So as you continue to educate yourself, it's good to have values and act according to your values and try to create a just society. But then you see that you got to deal with reality, and you have to know what you're talking about. And so you have to do the homework, you have to do the research, and
well, I don't even have to do the homework or the research, dude, because I've lived in it. I literally have lived in it, and I see the effects of it. It's not just me. My husband saw it, like, maybe even before I did. And he's the one that really pushed for us even to get out of California. Like, I was always ready to leave, but it was initially him. It's like, we got to get out of here. Like, the
effects. Maybe are you saying that is the effects universal, or is saying just you're saying you failed in the multicultural world, but there's plenty of people succeeding?
That's not fair though,
world.
David. That's just gaslighting. That's not really fair to say that I failed.
Not fair? We're saying you failed the multicultural world. Well, there's plenty of people who are happy and succeeding in it.
No, that's not. But for how long though? And I'm telling you, like, I've already seen it. There's culture wars going on in even San Francisco itself. You have there's gang wars. San Jose, Berkeley, Oakland, San Francisco. It's like major culture wars. There's so much gang violence there.
I mean, you could have this stream with someone else. I'm sure there's hundreds of, like the majority of people, Brundle, who are watching, you could just agree with each other on these issues. Like, I've already had these debates countless times, but when just looking at you yourself, you're talking to Doovid, you're not preaching to the choir, or you might be, or if you preach to the choir when I'm not here, you're just looking in the mirror and you say, is it you who failed the multicultural world? And well, others succeeded, and is the problem with you, or you're saying that there's something wrong with the multicultural world. You don't believe that there's people succeeding in it, and everybody's going to fail because it's just intrinsically bad. And that's basically what you're saying. You don't look at it as a personal failure where other people are succeeding in the multicultural world and you failed. You think it's just going to be the destruction of society, and it's going to be bad for everybody. But
Yeah.
the majority of people can't see it, and only, like you and Eki and like the handful of people here on YouTube are the only people who could see the truth.
I just don't, I don't know. I don't think it's fair to say.
It's not possible that you failed. It's not possible that there's plenty of other people that went into the multicultural world, that went into California and succeeded and are doing fine with multiculturalism.
Sure.
And it's just something about you that caused you to fail.
Well, those people are a lot more tolerant than I am, per se. Like it's one point when you become
your failure. You're saying
no.
Tolerance is your failure. You're not a tolerant person, and that's why you failed in the multicultural world.
No, it's only because well, you can say yes. I'm not as tolerant, therefore maybe I did fail in that aspect, but that's because my fuse is a little bit shorter. And then at what point do people eventually say, like, you know what, I can't handle this either? And then next thing you know, you have a failed state and nobody wants to be in, and everybody just fights with each other. But I don't think it's fair to say
everybody are just you. Everybody are just like you and the handful of my trolls that you're watching you now on YouTube. But meanwhile, most people are getting along fine in the multicultural world.
People that aren't from here, maybe, but the Americans are having a huge issue with it, and I've seen it, Doovid. Like, people are like, real Americans are fleeing. They're fleeing places like California because they can't handle it. And when, like I was saying earlier, when you have a multicultural society, or like a city such as the Bay Area, like, the whole area there is so multicultural and so condensedly just packed. It's people form their own neighborhoods. It's like, so even people that are part of multiculturalism aren't really engaging in it because they're separating themselves on their own. It's like they don't even want multiculturalism, and that's why these neighborhoods are even formed to begin with. That is
multiculturalism. So multiculturalism is where cultures are preserved, saying that nationalism is where whole societies are all the same. Like assimilation is where everyone assimilates to some common norm. Multiculturalism is where people preserve their societies, have their little enclaves where they live according to their language and way of life, but in the city hall and way of functioning, all get together. All get along.
That's that's where I would disagree. I don't think people do get along like that, because cultures are just different, man. And I accept that cultures are different.
But it's like when you go on the bus and the subway or to the store, and you don't care. Like, that's what it's saying. I forget what it was saying. Like, you don't mind the black checkout clerk at Walmart, and if it's Hispanic or Indian or Somalian or whatever, what do you care? And it's saying, like, Walmart, I don't even go to Walmart, but whatever it is. If it's your local policeman or your local mail person, you care that you get your mail, and whether your local mail delivery person is a blue-eyed man or an Indian woman, what does it matter? What matters is you get your mail and the job's done right.
Sure, but I also like to interact.
And you go back to your enclave, saying whether if it's an Indian woman delivering your mail and whatever your different services. And you each go back to your little enclave, and let's say you could find a little like enclave of country whites from Appalachia that now live in the big city, and you have your little apartment building and social club of Appalachian whites that live in the big city. But at the same time, you also thrive from the multicultural world, and you're saying like there's a certain American way of dealing, and that way you could deal with anybody. It doesn't matter who they are or where they came from. And, that's multiculturalism that allows you to have both.
But I don't know. I don't understand how that makes my life better. Like, because here's what.
Why does it all have to be about you?
Well, because I'm an individual and I care about my family.
Just put it because you're selfish.
Yeah, I guess
it's all got to be about you. Like, oh, boo-hoo, you didn't get things your way. Like, who gets things all their way?
Well, what happens if Israel gets overran with, I don't know,
to deal with it, but I'm saying just like, I'm not expecting to get my way.
be okay with that if somebody
You're
came
just
to
like
Israel and
you're constant
converted
like,
that culture? You would be okay with that? Just accept it, Doovid. You can't fight it. You have to
well, I
accept.
might fight it, but I'm just saying I'm not expecting to get my way. I'm not expecting people to ask me before they do things and run things by me. You like the world's a cold, hard place where bad things happen. You have to deal and adapt and strive to survive. Whatever it is you got to do to get ahead in the world and survive. And you could
Isn't that
fight
being selfish to get ahead in the world and survive? You have to be selfish to do that.
well, to some extent, but I'm saying you could fight for your ideals. Um, and you're saying whatever reason you're saying like you want a white America, you want less non-white people, you want less immigrants in America, you could fight for that. You could if that's your values and your ideals, you could fight for that. You could try to create that society. If that's what you want to do, why are you talking to me?
No, I'm not even advocating for a like a white society. I don't agree with white nationalists on quite a few issues. But I do, however, think that Americans, we should still hold to our culture and our traditions and our heritage. And I think what comes with that is part of it is white culture, honestly. And like the way I look at it, the
You don't
South.
need a white majority. You don't even need, I mean, so you could be a minority white person in the big city and still do that. Even if,
Yeah, for now, until
even
you're
if,
chased out or harassed or.
well, even if that comes, I mean, you deal with it. I mean, how did other minorities do? Even if
But it
Houston was
shouldn't even come to
95,
that, though. Like, why should
well,
it
what
even
does it
come to
matter?
that
It's like,
point?
even if Houston was 95% non-white, you could still find your little Appalachian, enclave and preserve your culture in a majority non-white society. And saying, okay, if you care about having a majority white society or whatever, but the points you're making are not being prevented to you. You could do all of that stuff, and your you don't need everyone to be like you to get ahead. And in fact, like the evidence will show that for a better productive city, you need multiculturalism. You do better when you have a bunch of different people. And I mean, to me, you just need to do more research. And I mean, in real life, you make if the you learned the lesson from yourself in this is saying tolerance. Your essential problem is you're not a tolerant person.
Well, no, like not when it comes to my culture. I'm sorry, I'm having an interruption. Oh, thank you. Sorry about that, David. No, I wouldn't expect for me to just go to a foreign country and them just be tolerant of me when I'm going and just making an ass of myself trying to change their culture. Like I wouldn't expect them to just.
Well, you're saying change their culture. If you were just trying to get ahead, do your job, be a good citizen, you would expect them to tolerate you.
Yeah, if I do that, then sure.
And if you're talking like
But that's
the
not what's
playground or
happening
something,
here, though. Like nobody. This I'm okay
that's
with
just your
a few.
perception. Saying because you're not a very tolerant person, you perceive these immigrants and people that aren't like you is doing all these wrong things when in reality most of them are fine, nice people. They could be friends. Those people speaking Swahili would actually be acceptable friends for your daughter to play with.
Sure, and I'm not even saying that the most of the foreigners that come here aren't nice. Like I'm sure majority of them are, but they don't share like the same common denominator, basically, and that's what's hard. Like even with you, I can relate
Maybe they
because
do. It's saying you
American.
refuse to look in the mirror and say maybe it's you who don't share the same common denominator.
So what am I going to talk to like somebody that from
When
Kenya
you
and
when you see people that are different from you or non-white, and you're just like, well, what are these people doing here? But the other people, they see a common denominator where they're not expecting everyone to be like them, and their common denominator is based on the more essential values of what it means to be American. It's you. Everyone being like you is not an essential American value.
I don't know. I disagree still. I think that you have to have some type of something you have to have something in common. Otherwise it's not gonna hold fast. And I say this like
Yeah, I agree with
especially.
that, but that's not the essential American value. You could have your enclave and your community, but the essential American value that holds us together is based on concepts of freedom and liberty, not on everyone being alike. and you could have your like eke or whatever, values that you're only going to be able to have that when everyone's alike. And largely the scholars and the majority of people in power in America disagree. So I mean, you just have to look in the mirror. Is it you who don't get it, or is it everyone else who doesn't get it?
I don't know. I just don't think that's a very fair argument just to say that, this has been happening and this has been pushed on me. It's not like I said, nobody asked anybody for this, but now that it's here, we should just accept it. That's what you're saying? Like, just accept it and move on?
Yeah, well, I'd come at it from different perspective. I'd tell you multiculturalism, you as a person would probably benefit from becoming multicultural. You being more tolerant, learning more about different cultures, opening up your network and friendship circle to many different peoples would probably personally benefit you. Then the question is like, you're like, no, I do not want to do that. No one asked me about this. I don't like these people. I don't want to like these people. I don't want to be their friends. And if that's your attitude, it's like, well, practically, what are you going to do about it? And you're saying like, you say, like, well, no, you're just going to keep on whining like no one ever asked you. It's like, of course no one ever asked you. No one ever is going to ask you.
You don't see a problem with that though? Like, there's no
but that's the way
consent
of the
with this?
world. Of course there's no consent. You're saying, of course no one asked you. Of course no one's ever going to ask you. If you want to run for Congress in, like on an anti-immigrant platform or something and try to do something about it, I'm going to be on the opposite side of you. A lot of people are, and you're probably going to lose. But you want to fight the good fight. Go ahead and try to fight the good fight. Good for you. Good luck with that. But just complaining about it, like that's seems completely useless.
I just don't think America could be sustainable as a country doing that. And I say that because with, for instance, my experience in the military, like America's military is one of the strongest, if not the strongest in the world. And is it because it's all a bunch of multiculturalism? No, it's because the military has a way of doing things, like they have their core values. Like in the Navy, like we had our sailor's creed, and that's what we were kind of based in. And it wasn't like, like I had a guy from China in my division when I was in basic training, and his English was absolutely horrendous. And it's like, is he really helping? Like, is his Chinese-ness, like his China man, whatever, is that what's helping the American military? It's like, no. What's helping make this
did he make
strong?
The cut? Do you think, did he get dropped?
I don't really remember. I know he couldn't swim, which is really bizarre. Why anybody would want to join the Navy?
Is it possible he's higher
but
ranking than you now and went on to become a better American than you today?
What define better American?
Well, I was saying just that he went further in the pathway for a typical person in the Navy, that he stuck with it. And now
honestly, I don't know. I didn't keep.
He outranks you.
Maybe he did. I don't know. But it's, even if he did, is it because he's Chinese? Like, no, it's because he was following the core values of the United States Navy. And honestly, I don't even know what happened to him. I lost contact with most people from basic training, but
sometimes core values conflict, and there's a conflict. Some of the core value of American.
But when that's my whole point, though, when you have core values that conflict, the whole thing just falls apart.
Certainly diversity as a strength is a core value of the U.S. military, and that could conflict with other values. But I'm saying diversity as a strength is a core value in the military in the U.S. today. That's unquestionable.
Maybe only from a language aspect, but not
from a strategic
from
aspect. You may have disagreed with it, but from the larger military perspective, diversity is one of the strengths of the U.S. military.
I would disagree with that. I would honestly disagree.
I got to show you, like, look it up and show you that is officially one of the core values of the military. I mean, you recognize that is factually what they taught you. That is what the country says is one of our core values.
That's what the country might say, but I don't agree with that. And I would abhorrently attest that.
So you're the person who's a dissident from your own country. You're the one who's breaking the core value of the military.
Because that's not what the core value of the military is.
I did a whole study on it. Like, I mean, I don't know if it is worth looking this stuff up, but currently that is the state that is the structure of the U.S. military.
That shouldn't be what it is, because diversity is our strength is like one of the biggest lies ever told.
But that they
Diversity
did tell
is
you
our
that
strength.
lie. You sat through training and they told you that lie, and you pretended like you accepted it even though you rejected it.
No, actually, so when I went into the military, this was the year 2008, and I was in basic training right after Obama had won the election. So then, no, I didn't stay in long enough to where anything would have changed from the time I went in. But it wasn't like multicultural. Like I don't remember getting taught anything like that. I was taught, we have you have the Navy core values, like, and that's what we operated on. And then it wasn't until after I got out that it started to get like globo homo, like with all the trans people and the don't ask, don't tell, all that stuff came into play. That was after I was already out.
I just did a Google. I mean, this is the Secretary of the Army, Eric Flanning, September 2016. I'm sure I could find hundreds of articles like this. Americans' diversity is our Army's strength. Since I was confirmed as Army Secretary in May 2016, I've tried to get out of the Pentagon and see Americans' Army through the eyes of soldier, doing what they do, where they do it. I've engaged with teams of soldiers, exercise, so on, so on.
See, also think about.
This is the official statement of the U.S. Army.
I don't agree with
Americans'
it.
diversity is our Army's strength. That's the official position of the U.S. Army.
Yeah, they've been subverted. Great. Absolutely great. Well, what makes me sick is, and this kind of goes along with it, is diversity is our strength. So what's next? We're going to put women into the Army Ranger program. We're going to send women to BUDS training. Like
what's next? Are you going to turn against America? Does America have to, like, God forbid, put you on a watch list because you're anti-American, or do you stand up and try to change the direction of America? Where you're going to run for Congress?
Well, so now all of a sudden my views are anti-American though. Like that's what it is now. Like my views of wanting to conserve my culture and traditions and heritage is now anti-American. Well, I would say that's a big problem.
Preserving your culture and your heritage, but rejecting the benefit of diversity is anti-American.
I wouldn't say diversity is a benefit, though.
Yeah, and according to the Army, that's an anti-American statement.
I would disagree. I completely disagree with their
Army. You disagree? Yeah, but saying you agree that you disagree with the authorities of America.
I disagree with that statement of the Army, and I don't think that was ever, like, maybe until recently, until the Army would put out a statement like that.
But I was saying that, did you get a rank? Did you were you just private first class, or what was your?
No, I made it E3 and then I got out.
What's E3?
It's an airman, or what was it? Shoot, it's been so long. I forget what it's called. It's like airman. So no, I didn't stay in long enough to move up in rank. I did what I did and then I got out. But the whole thing was, it's still the core value though, Doovid. It wasn't diversity. It doesn't matter where you come from. Like when you go into the military, you are theirs basically. Like the US government basically owns you, So therefore you confine to what they want. Like I said, with the Navy, it's the core values. If you go to Marine Corps, you're going to have the exact same thing. And you have to follow a chain of command. And
if you had picked on that Chinese person and told them they didn't belong there, you would have been reprimanded.
Maybe I would have. I don't know.
Guaranteed.
Maybe I would have.
You don't think maybe, you're saying guaranteed. If you were picking on the Chinaman and saying he didn't belong there because he wasn't Chinese, or making fun of him because of his English, it's a fact you would have been reprimanded. I think that is not the values that the U.S. Army represents, and you would have been reprimanded.
They would have, they forced me to accept it. That is true. Yeah. But don't you see, that's it though. And he can't hate on me also for being a white American. No, he also has to conform to what the military wants. That's the whole point.
Yes.
And that's why the military is strong, because you have one way to follow, and that's it. You don't follow your own rules. And if you go by your own rules when you're in the Navy or any other branch of military, then you're going to, you'll get summoned up in front of the big dogs. America works the same way. Like if everybody comes in here and just starts mixing things up, it's going to collapse, man.
Yeah,
this is why I'm fighting for it.
What would your commanding officer, if you complain, like, no one ever asked me if there should be a Chinese person, how come there's a Chinese person here who doesn't speak English properly? No one ever asked me. What would they have told you?
Hell, if I know, maybe they would have agreed with me, for all I know. But that's the thing with the military, is because there is a chain of command, you go by what the command says, and you accept that when you join the military. So for all I know, maybe my commanding officers would have agreed with me and probably like, well, I don't know, we don't like them here either, but these are the rules. For all I know, I don't know. Like, I had never brought that up.
Why not?
Well, I don't know. I turned 19 in basic training, and like when you're in boot camp, like, you don't ask any questions. Basically, you do what you're told. You follow orders. That's what you do. So
why
like,
are you bringing it up now, 10 years later?
Well, because we're talking about multiculturalism and having a core value. And I brought up the military because the reason that the military is so strong is because of those core values that everybody can relate to. And that's what I want for America. Like, we have to have a core value, Doovid. We have to have it. And then once it gets shattered or it's dispersed and not enough people can represent America and America's values, then we don't have a country anymore. And at that point, can you even call yourself American? And if you disagree with what the status quo is, then you're anti-American. And I just think that's wrong. It's like I'm being punished for my beliefs that I wish America could stay like my idea of American. Or I guess a lot of people would say America, what America is. And maybe it's changed over the years. Like, you have the Overton window, but I think America, and I think Southern culture, like Southern heritage culture, and that includes whites and blacks, to be honest. And it wasn't until places like New York and California, Portland, Seattle, and now even Texas with all their super liberal cities that it's really changed, And now there's like, no, you can't accept what is white culture, American culture, Southern culture. You can't do that because it's abhorrently racist, and we cannot have that.
You just can't pick on people who are different. I mean, you could preserve and respect and grow your culture. You just can't pick on people for being different.
Well, it's not that they're different. It's just, I just want, if you come here, like, just adapt to the culture. Like, don't try to come here with your culture, waving your flag from your other country, and then coming here and say, no, you got to accept it. You have to accept it, or else you are a mean person. Like, I don't think that's right.
Well, I mean, it depends. You have to accept, you're saying you have to accept that you can't pick on other people that are immigrants or came from a different place. You're actually commanded to protect them. I mean, you could be anti-immigrant, you could have policy, you could propose immigration reform, but you're saying you're obligated to protect those people.
I'm obligated to protect American citizens. And Americans.
At the time, even, God forbid, if it cost you your life, you would have had to protect those people, whether you like them or not, whether you think they belong here or not.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. So I guess, I don't know, what's the point there? Like,
well, I don't know. I mean, what do you want to talk about? I mean, saying we could talk about, like the Bible, religion, but I mean, all these streams, it seems to come to this immigration, multiculturalism issue, and I guess I'm just trying to help you think through these issues, and then you got to see, like, are you going to be like a one issue person where your issue is immigration?
No. There's a lot of issues I have. It's like we can talk about children, like what. Well, I guess we can switch the topic a little bit here. So what do you think about children in the globo homo world that we live in? Like, if you want to get real here, you can say, I don't know, another culture comes in and says, hey, it's okay for children to dress in drag and go dance in gay bars for money. Like, that's okay. And I say that's no, absolutely not. So it's like, what culture are we supposed to be mean to? Like, Like that's why you
You're not
have to
supposed to
have a
be
base
mean to
culture.
anyone. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you that like I don't approve of that and think it's wrong. However, yeah, you're not supposed to be mean to people just because they're different, and even because people are sinful, you're not supposed to be mean to them.
Right. No, I mean, I agree, but at the same time, like I want to really protect children. And if it involves me getting mean to people who are harming children, then I absolutely will. I will absolutely do that.
Well, yeah, I'm saying okay, there's law and order and there's crime and punishment, and society's got to determine what's a crime and what's not a crime. You want to be like a vigilante for something that society has deemed not a crime. It's probably not recommendable.
Great. So we need the self-righteous moralist to tell us what is right and what's wrong.
You have the collective democratic society that deems what's a punishable crime and what's not. And if you're saying, yeah, this is degenerate bad behavior, but society has deemed it not a crime, not punishable, not a punishable offense, then it's probably not good to you don't be a voluntary vigilante against things that the larger society has accepted. You can still have your morals and speak out against it and have your opinions, but yeah, you should tolerate those people if they're in public, or your kids go to public school and they have to deal with those kids in school. It's probably not a good idea for your kids to turn into bullies and pick on those people. Maybe you don't want to be friends with them. You don't want to invite them to your kids' birthday parties, but even in that circumstance, like, no, you probably don't want your kids becoming bullies.
No, I mean, of course, I don't want my kids to be mean to people. Being a cruel person is never, is never a good thing. But I don't know. Like, so are you saying that the elites or whoever we put in office should be kind of in control?
Well, I mean, if you care that much, run for Congress. You're saying, like, you look at it, you're saying, I mean, you're understanding ignorance is the natural condition of humans. We're born knowing nothing. You only know what you're educated. Maybe if you take higher birth and have a bit, better resources, you could have a better education. But ignorance is the natural condition. And so if you've chosen to enlighten yourself and see all these societal problems, either you step up and try to change that, and you're saying, so run for Congress. Okay, you have a YouTube page. I don't think having a YouTube page and just complaining is worth anything, or having a YouTube page and having a bunch of bullies come on and trying to beat down on people because they're different is going to accomplish something. But if you care enough, try to do something about it.
No, I agree with you on that. We do agree on that.
And it's what I said about time wasting. I'm saying, like, bullying people, creating an echo chamber where you just complain about people who are different is basically worthless. You instill the values in your kids where they could understand. You're just like saying multicultural, like with a Christian, where they understand that there's people who are different, and there might be atheists and Hindus and Jews and Buddhists and Muslims or whatever, and that's not your religion. That's not the religion you want your child to have, but they should be respectful and tolerant to those people when they deal with them. And that's your difficult task as a mother, to instill your values and make sure that your kids don't become bullies and are tolerant to people who don't have those values, while at the same time maintaining your values. And that's your task as a mother.
Yeah, it's a rough task to try to weave out in today's world. Believe that. That's definitely a challenge that I'm trying to figure out as I'm going along this journey that's motherhood. So I don't know. I just don't think that it can work, man. I just don't think, like, my family would fall apart if I didn't have some type of structure and moral foundation. Like I want to build my house in the rock, not the sand, and I want that as well for my country. Like, we can't, or else it's just going to wash away. Like, if you don't stand for something, Doovid, you have nothing. Like, you stand for nothing,
Well, I agree.
So,
And I mean, essentially, we're agreeing on central principles and saying that if you really care about these things, you have to step up and do something about it. Running's not going to help. And you're wasting your time. You're just with an echo chamber and repeating talking points with a bunch of nameless people on YouTube is unlikely to, that's not going to help. So either you have to stand up and say, what are you going to do about it? And saying, yeah, if you run for Congress, like, I'm going to be on the opposite side supporting your opponent. I disagree with you.
yeah, fair enough. No, and I do agree with you. Like I said, I that is definitely a problem. Is people are just on here just talking, and so it's like, all right, well, is this like a open invitation now from you to start fighting for my country, run for president, or not president, but run for some political office?
Well, I mean, you could start with your local PTA or something. I mean, you don't have to. I mean, Congress is even quite a thing. Local city council, or even just your local parent-teacher organization. And it's saying,
Yeah.
okay, like we're in like thousands of miles away, but I'm sure there's a counterpart that if you ran for PTA, there's going to be someone there like Doooovid who's going to oppose you.
Yeah, probably so. And I do agree with that. That
The internet, like these YouTube conversations, you could still keep doing it and have like your little echo chamber support group. Because like, okay, if you're just all on your own, and you don't know if anyone agrees with you, and you're just gonna, be like some, mean racist woman who wants to overrun your PTA, where you think like, you have the YouTube page and your circles to know, like, I mean, you're voicing an opinion that there are people who agree with you to give you the backup to, do something in real life. And but I mean, even like, okay, you're speaking to Doooovid, and I'm telling you the glories of multiculturalism, and you might take some of that in your own life, and you might find that you find support from people you didn't expect it. Maybe your local Muslim students decide to back you, or whatever. You don't know how it's going to play out. You know that you're already in the multicultural world. You know how society works. You need coalition building, democratic principles. And even if you could rally all the people who are like you together, that's still probably not enough to win.
No, but challenge accepted, Doovid. Be careful what you wish for.
Okay, I mean, well, I was saying, like, one day I see on the news like Ashley's running for Congress, an anti-immigrant platform, and I mean, I doubt you're going to move up here to Detroit, but wherever if you stay there and move, you're in the papers running for Congress as an anti-immigrant platform. Yeah, like I'll probably be supporting your opponent.
Challenge accepted, Doovid. No, I mean, I don't even think I would
But it is a
necessarily.
real challenge. That's what I'm saying. Like the challenge of like, how good like Eki could troll me or something, or Brundle, you're going to make like such a good joke, and all the trolls in the chat are going to laugh really hard. That's not a challenge. That's not doing anything. If these are
and I
actually your
agree.
beliefs,
I agree.
I mean, you're in the Navy. You know the path forward. You know what it's going to take to change things, and you know the opposition you're going to face.
Right. Well, that's part of the problem. Now, look, I mean, we have 2 Muslim women in Congress right now, which I absolutely abhor. Like, I think that's horrible.
Who I supported.
I don't support it at all.
I did. I supported both of them.
You supported both of them.
I didn't send a donation. I mean, Rashida Tlaib, I even know like one of her congressional staffers. Ilhan Omar, I know people that went out to campaign for her.
Oy vey. And do you think that's good for the country?
I do, yeah. Personally, I do.
2 Muslim women that completely go against what core values are in America, or like at least what I believe to be core values, the oppression.
I have it on my YouTube page. Like, man, I want to, when Trump had the Islam ban, and we had a protest here in Detroit, and I got like this Yemeni Islamic woman in hijab and a Somali woman in hijab leading a chant, this is what America looks like. And to me, that is what I believe. You're like, Ilhan Omar, this is what America looks like. I have no problem with that.
See, that's a problem, isn't it?
You look at her and you're saying that's not American. But to me, Ilhan Omar is that this is what America looks like.
Oh, I would absolutely disagree with that. America is freedom, and Islam is absolutely anti-freedom in every way, shape, and form. And the fact that even like she's a hypocrite, even to be in political office.
Freedom. I mean, to me, you're the one who's anti-freedom, and that's why I'm supporting people like Ilhan Omar.
I don't know. I think just being Islamic and being in Congress, like I didn't even think women were allowed to hold political office or any type of power when they're Islam.
Yeah, but she's an American. That's why America takes a different form. We're the first Muslim, she's a woman. She's a strong woman, And saying no, and probably in Somalia where she comes from, she wouldn't be able to do that. In most Islamic countries, she wouldn't be able to do that. But it's America. That's why she's this is what America looks like.
Somewhere along the line, the definition of America was changed, and that's another issue I have, is this constant changing of words and what their definition even means.
Of course, that's
So it's
reality.
like,
I mean, you study history, things change. Like every generation, every few years, even constantly, things change. No, people are not going to ask you before things change. Things just automatically change.
maybe it shouldn't be forced though. It's like, and that's what I feel like is happening now more than
you
ever.
Want to force it. I mean, but you're look in the mirror. You're saying, but you want to force these changes against, even though there's tens of millions of people who disagree with you.
I'd say there's probably 20 to 30 millions that probably will agree with me.
But there's there's maybe 100, there's maybe more, there could be well more than 100 million people in America that disagree with you. There's unquestionably tens of millions of people that disagree with you, and you're completely fine. Like, too bad, you lose. So when that happens to you, you just got to dish your own medicine.
Yeah, but that's basically what you're saying I should do, though. It's like, well, too bad you've lost, so just accept this multicultural society you live in and just stop complaining about it. And I just can't do that, man. Like that is enslavement to me, to where I can't say anything about it.
Having this conversation, like, we could agree to disagree, and that's why, like, I'm telling you, like, yeah, if you ran for Congress, you probably want Doooovid in your corner. If you did want someone to do something, if you did want to do something about it, like, you're going to need help. You're going to need all the friends you could get.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but if I want to get
be helped by a bunch of people you don't even know who they are, a bunch of like anonymous racists who are scared to use their real names, how are they going to help you? Whoever the hell this Adolf Hitler is in your chat, like how is whatever person decide to make a meme account of Adolf Hitler in your chat, how are they going to help you?
No, well, and I've brought this up before, is this whole anonymous issue.
How is Eki even Eki, like, how is he going to help you?
Well, and I mean, I've mentioned this before. I
mean, realistically, even though we're in complete disagreement, Doooovid could help you more than any of these people.
How so? Just by you showing your identity?
Well, I'm saying I'm an educated person. I'm an accomplished beta. It's like I know, I'm an educated beta.
You need a woman, Doooovid. You need a woman.
Yeah, I mean, that might be true, but I'm not saying like. but I was saying that relatively, like, yeah, if you did want to run for Congress or something like that, yeah, I could probably walk you through that. I mean, I'm like. I don't know.
But in order for me to get your support, maybe I have to change what I want in order to fit you, which I don't think that's right. Like, why can't I just have my own truths and the truth and go with that? Why can't I do that? Why do I have to subvert myself in order to fit the status quo for everybody else?
Because society's changing without your opinion on the matter. And it's saying, so you want to stop it, you have to step up and do something about it, because as you said, no one's asking you for your opinion. No one asked you. They just changed it. And if you're upset about the direction that it's going, you got to step up and do something. And then once you decide that, yeah, you're right, you want to step up and do something about it, you look, who's going to be able to help you? Okay, maybe Brundle hides his identity, but you say he could actually help you. Like, or maybe you could secretly, he'll tell you his identity and you could protect his identity, or whatever. Maybe Brundle, without telling you his identity, will donate $100 to your campaign fund or something, or just having a support group. But like just a mission type thing, purpose driven. What's your goal? What's your purpose? What's your strategy for getting there? What's useful? What's detrimental?
Right. But I still, in order to get your support, I still have to subvert myself, though, to fit what you want. And at that point, I'm just lying. I support
you as your person, but no, I'm your opposition. I support immigration and multiculturalism, and I'm not saying you're my enemy, but you're my opposition. If you're opposing immigration and multiculturalism, you're my opposition. It doesn't mean you're my opposition on everything. It doesn't mean like we can't be friends, because I'm a tolerant person, and even though you're, so to say, not such a tolerant person, we could still be friends. But when it comes to multiculturalism and immigration, I'm going to be on the opposite side of you.
Then I shall meet you at the battlefield, Doovid.
Well, I mean, exactly. I mean, that's how we met in the first place, right? You saw
Yeah.
me debating. I mean, I don't know your history, but you, Luke Ford or Brundle, whoever that's probably how you met me in the first place, is seeing me on the battlefield.
Mm.
But I
I
mean,
did see you on the battlefield.
That'll be you one day, saying from the opposite side, saying that, saying, so who do you could either be a cheerleader, and who are you cheering on? You're cheering on like Brundle, Melky, Luke Ford, and or Richard Spencer or whoever, and you're like, okay, like, and those guys are a bunch of losers. You don't want to be a cheerleader for losers, and you step up and be like, all those people representing your belief systems are in essence a bunch of losers that can't get the job done.
Well, Doovid, that's not being very nice to call them losers. Now, I wouldn't be doing name calling, Doovid.
Well, I mean, losers just mean they're losing. I mean, it's like President Trump says, we don't win anymore, and saying, yeah, they're losers because they're losing every single battle. I mean, losers like their life isn't worth anything. They're bad people, but I mean, they're losers. They're losing every single battle that they're facing. They're losing.
And the open border Jews are winning. Great.
You agree, right?
I actually do agree with that statement.
I mean,
and it actually terrifies me. I don't want it to be that way, but that's reality.
I mean, I don't even know, like Mike Enoch, Richard Spencer, whoever, like the big names or the second tier names like Ecke and Brundle, they're losers. They have not won a single battle in a few years.
But you can't. Like, how are we supposed to go up against somebody like the ADL and AIPAC and the SPLC? Like, how can we even fight them at this point? Like, we don't even have the ability to even put up a fair fight. Don't you also see a problem with that?
It doesn't matter whether you see a problem with it. It's saying, like, if that's the reality, you got to deal with it.
I don't like that though, Doovid. I really don't like that. That's just submitting to some higher authority.
Who cares what you like or don't like? I'm saying that it's just kind of like childish and selfish. Like, no one cares what you like. No one cares what you think. You want to do something about it, good luck. But like, like people don't ask your opinion before they do something. There's no like group that someone's, oh, wait, Ashley disagrees with this policy. We can't go forward with it. That's not how the world works.
Yeah, that's true. And if I could change it, I absolutely would. But I don't know how to even do it. I honestly don't know how to do it. And I don't even know how can I do it when honestly I have a problem being able to speak freely. It's just, I don't know, maybe
for like 2.5 hours. I mean, we could talk about this for hours. I see Brundle begging for the link in the chat. If you want to give him the link and he could argue with me a few minutes, and then I got stuff I got to do today.
Yeah, I did send him the link.
I didn't loser as a person, saying like he's a like lost in life, but I'm saying certainly from the year we've been arguing, he might have more followers on YouTube or something, but like I'm pretty sure he's losing.
Bro, how's the guy who rides on the back of a dump truck with a black sharing the Torah with those unclean hands? And no kid's going to tell a father about a father with a job that he's a loser.
Well, you're a loser when you lose, right? You're a T-ball coach. Doesn't losing make the definition of a loser is someone who loses?
Yeah, but it depends on the game we're talking about. Like who's losing here? Like who's losing?
Well, I mean, you could make fun of our thing, yeah, but like we've already collected close to $20,000. Rabbi Goldstein, brother is on my YouTube page. Rabbi Goldstein, who is just met President Trump. I'll put the link in the chat. But Rabbi Goldstein, his brother is a rabbi in Ann Arbor. He is on my YouTube page. Like, you are losing.
Dude,
my rabbi's brother.
A bunch
just
of
met with President Trump.
Managed to raise $20,000 for like an IRL hangout place. Like, how have you not gotten more money? Like, where's the corporate sponsorships? Like, it's really a fail. I got $5,500 in 2 days on the backs of like a couple of tweets and going on Luke Ford's show, and then I dropped it. I could have gotten even more for Kevin. So Kevin doesn't even do anything for people, really, other than provide some content. Whereas, this synagogue provides free alcohol and dancing for all the local goitas to come by and grind up on some Jews. Who doesn't want to pay for that?
Here's my YouTube page. I'll put in the chat. Rabbi Alter Goldstein, his father is the brother of Rabbi Yisrael Goldstein, who is being honored at the White House right now. Put the link in the chat. Is saying like, you could make fun of me and my people.
Dude, nobody's making fun of your people. You called me a loser. But
yeah, because you're losing.
Losing at what? Losing at life?
I'm saying you're losing in the battle against multiculturalism and immigration.
No, we're winning.
I mean, you're fancy.
The tide is turning. The tide is turning.
Yeah, the tide is turning. That's why my rabbi's brother just was being honored by the President Trump. And you're a dissident. You're anti-American. You're turning against the country while my rabbi is
I'm pro-American. You just said, God, you earlier in the show, you said you're more Jewish than you are American. Well, that the only identity I have is my Americanism. So,
I doubt
I'm more American than you'll ever be because you cling to dual identities.
Then how come my rabbi's being honored by President Trump today?
Well, because Trump's a cuck.
You're still hiding behind a fake name and face and complaining and doing.
Well, because I have a job. That's why I'm behind.
Yeah, and the best you could do with your money, is donate it to Kevin Michael Grace so he could keep on complaining and losing on the internet. Will Doooovid's rabbis at the White House today?
No, the best thing I can do with my money is invest it in my son. As he
invested in your Jewish son, you're just
my Jewish son, my Christian son.
You investing in your son.
My son who knows that Jesus is the Messiah. How about that?
Okay, yeah, I mean, help out the Jews.
Hey.
You investing in your son is Doovid winning.
Me? I don't think so. He's not riding on the back of a truck with a lesbian rabbi.
He will be.
And her lover.
He will be. That was on the second page of the Jewish News.
Such a thing. God forbid.
I don't know. Do you think we're losing, Brundle?
No, I don't think we're losing. And as Aaron Amahud points out in the chat, Jews are losing to assimilation. I mean, how many Peo-swearing young men are there, Doovid?
They're growing. However many there are, there's more. So here's the Detroit Jewish
what's up
News.
With that? How are their numbers going? All your Jewesses are just lined up for Brundle's. They want Brundle's superior.
Here's your Detroit Jewish News. On the cover
is a white man betting Jewesses.
It's the mayor.
Why can't Jewish men keep their Jewesses on the reservation?
What's on page 2 right here? Page 2 of the Jewish News.
Is that Doovid?
That's Doovid. Brundle making fun of me. You just said making fun of me. That's page 2 of the Jewish News here. Page 1 has multiple billionaires and your good buddy, Professor Sachs from Columbia, Bernie Sanders' buddy, who came from.
Who are they telling to go home? Are they telling the Jews to go home?
And page 2, Doovid on the back of the truck that you're making fun
right
of.
On the yeah, there you go. Wait, Doovid, why are you so closely aligned with the lesbian rabbi that you're on the truck? I think you just God forbid, just forced to go, to be a part of that synagogue.
Well, it's like Ashley said, she was in the Navy and she had the Chinese person in boot camp, and you got to man up and take. I have no authority to be against. I could be like a dissident and creating a meme on the account to troll her, but the fact is the community chose her as the leader, and I fell in line.
So you're just a follower.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I mean, to some extent, I follow, but I mean, I wouldn't have chosen.
Aren't there other shuls? Aren't there shuls not run by lesbians posing as rabbis?
Yeah, but that was the shul I was part of before she was rabbi.
Dude, what does the Bible say about?
It was the exact same thing. You want me to flee my synagogue because a democratic process. They had elections. They put her as the rabbi. She changed the direction of the synagogue, and rather than being like you and creating like a meme and becoming a troll, I decided to fall in line.
You're a rule follower, Doovid.
It's losing.
Right?
Dude, that's losing.
Oh, I lost that one. You're right.
You lost your you lost your dignity along the way.
Well, then how come I'm on page 2 of the Jewish News?
I mean, if I made the front page of the news with a in bed with a man, I mean, would that be an accomplishment? I mean, you're on the back of a truck with a lesbian rabbi and her black girlfriend.
Well, it was more than you accomplished. I mean you
accomplished.
I mean, that's why you're just a troll hiding your identity on the internet.
What do you mean, dude? I got you on accomplished. I'm just
you
a troll hiding on the
JF
internet.
JF get on his year show when he was looking through his thing. He called out. I mean, he even retweeted me. JF retweeted me, and
were you thanked him for having you on? Yeah.
And he gave me a shout out on his show. Like he went through a bunch of other names, and but Doovid got a shout out.
Well, excellent. I'm very happy for you. How did that happen, Doovid?
Thanks to you.
What made that possible?
Thanks to you, who knew that you need someone to teach your son Judaism. The best person you could find on all of
the
internet to teach your son Judaism was me.
No, you know what? You're right. I think, look, dude, I mean, this is what our alliance is all about. I think white people should learn what Judaism is about from you versus like fake Jews. You know, we need real Jews like you to tell all the white people what Judaism is really about.
My rabbi met with President Trump today, as were the rabbi who excommunicated Luke.
Which rabbi? How many? You got all these rabbis. The lesbian rabbi met with Trump today. Is that what you're saying?
No, Rabbi Goldstein. I got a bunch of rabbis, but the rabbi who met with President Trump is the one who excommunicated Luke Ford. So when your connection into Judaism is Luke Ford, but the rabbi who excommunicated him is the one who speaks with President Trump.
Yeah, but there's no rabbi. No rabbi has the authority to excommunicate Jews from all of Judaism.
Yeah, but the one who said Luke Ford is no good is the one that meets with President Trump.
I mean, he wouldn't be the first person that said Luke Ford was no good. I mean,
but doesn't it tell you something where your main Jewish connection, you're like, that's losing.
Dude, my main Jewish connection is my wife. You're like a secondary or tertiary connection to Jews. I lay at night next to Judaism.
Okay, good for you. That's why I said like Doovid's already winning.
What about you? Do you lay next to Judaism at night?
God forbid, unless you go crazy and get rid of your wife and kid, everything you do just makes Doovid win. There's nothing you could do that doesn't help Doovid.
Not true. Not true at all. You have nothing to do with it. You're just some anti-white, multiculturalist, Detroit Jew who bends the knee to lesbian wannabe rabbis, while I have a stake in the future. I mean, it's interesting. Like all your political positions are totally detached from the idea of or the recognition that your policies like impact children and future generations. You know, this is why, like, you know, the Jews basically have rules or sort of cultural norms about, you know, expectations of a man to be, you know, a full man. They have to become a father. You can't hope to lead a community if you don't have that sense and connection to the future.
Well, I mean, when you're wrong, you can.
For you.
I mean, I do agree. Like it's like I pray every day. I'd like to build up a family. You didn't see my screenshot of my friend in Texas?
Well, look, let's get you a woman, dude.
Were you watching at the beginning?
Let's get you on J-Date. I'll help you make a J-Date profile.
It's Tinder for Jews.
More like Plenty of Fish, but yeah. Dude,
were you watching at the beginning?
Let's get you a J-Date. What?
You see my screenshot here?
Yeah, who's that?
This is Chaim Nisim Cohn, who is Ashley's neighbor in Houston, Texas, and his 9 sons. Like, I'm jealous of this man. Doovid would like to be showing
Who's the really? Is that a dude? Is that a dude or a woman that's the really tall one?
Oh, hey, Piper.
That's a dude in the center and his 9 Hasidic sons. Like Doovid would like to be showing you his picture here with my 9 Hasidic sons. Unfortunately, I've not been blessed in that manner.
Well, but didn't you tell me that you were like
this man
asexual?
is Ashley's
How
neighbor.
are you gonna have 9 Hasidic sons? You don't.
I'm going to show you because this man is Ashley's neighbor.
Wow.
Blue eye and look, like half of his kids have blue eyes.
They're good looking. They're good looking kids. I wish I had 9 sons as well.
Okay, yeah, so do I.
Blessing Hashem has blessed him for sure. So, look, dude, we'll get you off the weed. We'll get you cleaned up. We'll get you a J-date profile. Shit, I'll start making it right now. How tall are you?
Yes, let's do this. Let's get Doovid a
matchmaker. I'm 6 feet tall.
You call me Yenta from Fiddler on the Roof, the matchmaker. Matchmaker, make me a match. Bum 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 bum. I can't remember the lyrics.
We'll send for you, Doovid, just to get you a woman.
All right, 6 foot. How much do you weigh? Like 200, 210?
I put on a few weight now. I'm probably up to 210.
All right, let's call it 195.
If I lost like my belly, I'd be like 190. If I was perfectly fit, I'd be like 190. Okay, I gotta go. I gotta take care of a few things today. We streamed for almost 3 hours. Now you got Brundle.
All right, we'll do it next week. Next week, let's do this. Because I'll talk to you offline. But yo, we should do a J-date profile video where we set up a J-date for you
with a bunch of trolls. Yeah, like Doovid, all the girls lining up when he's like, and these are the hundreds of alt-right trolls that hate me. Yeah, that's really gonna help me.
We don't hate you, Doovid. We don't hate you. We don't hate you, Doovid. I love you. Yes.
Yeah, you're our friend, man.
Just show like, look at my alt-right trolls. Like I know Richard Spencer. Like yeah, that's really gonna, like how did that help you with your Jewish wife?
You know what? She didn't leave me. She almost left me, but maybe it was just a bluff.
Yeah, man, I don't think streaming on your channel is going to improve my chances of finding a Jewish girl. In fact, like we won't
link it. We won't link it per se. But look, you've never been on there. Found to be like agreeing with. You're against these people, so you're a warrior, a Talmudic Pilpolian warrior.
That's why I say Ashley found me on the battlefield.
I know. Well, apparently,
and she saw like, look, all these big names in the alt-right. Like she has more courage than all of you. She's like Doovid slayed all of the big names of the alt-right. And Ashley coming out of the Navy.
Yeah, Ash is kind of like. I get the feeling Doovid. If Ash wasn't married, she'd definitely be into you. I can tell.
When she wants to defeat me.
Well, she wants you to defeat. She wants to be conquered by you. Is really what it is. It's subconscious.
Brundle, you shut your dirty trap right now. You shut your freaking mouth.
Hey, take care, buddy. It was good to talk to you, man.
Okay, have a great day. I'm going to bounce too. Thanks for having me
on. Yeah, thanks for coming on, buddy. I appreciate it, Doovid. And you too, Brundlefly. I'm going to close this thing out. All right. Thanks for tuning in, you guys.